Thank you.
Chair, you are now live.
Thank you very much indeed. Good evening and welcome to the full council meeting of East Cambridge District Council on Thursday, the 29th of April 2021. I would like to begin by welcoming those members of the public and press who are watching the live stream of this meeting via YouTube. Due to the government guidance on social distancing, this meeting is being held remotely in accordance with the provisions set out in the local authorities and police and crime panels, coronavirus, flexibility of local authority and police and crime panel meetings, England and Wales, regulations 2020, and with our own virtual meeting protocol, which works with our normal constitution. Regarding the constitution that we work to and has been agreed by full council, I thought that it would be useful to remind members of the process for points of order and points of explanation. Please put either PO or PE in the chat box. A member may rise on a point of order or of clarification and is then entitled to be heard at that point. A point of order may relate only to an alleged breach of those council procedure rules or statutory provisions, and the members must specify both the council procedure rule or statutory provision and the way in which he or she considers it has been broken. A point of clarification must be confined to some material part of a previous speech by him or her, which may appear to have been misunderstood in the present debate. It does not allow for the continuation of the debate. The ruling of the chairman on a point of order or point of clarification is final. To enable the meeting to run in an orderly manner, I would ask all members of the council to keep their video camera switched on for the duration of the meeting and to keep their microphones muted, except when they are being invited to speak. Any members wishing to speak should indicate this by clicking the raised hand function on the right-hand side of their screen or an appropriate other method. When I invite you to speak by name, you will be unmuted. Please speak and then you will be muted, and then you will remute yourself, please. As with all new arrangements, especially those new systems, there is always a risk that we may run into technical problems, and I would ask for your patience if we do. Should this occur, we would declare an adjournment while the fault is addressed. If it is not possible to address the fault, the meeting may be abandoned. So such time as it can be reconvened. It's not going to be abandoned forever. So members will be allowed to speak only once and for up to 5 minutes. Can I please ask members to make sure that your contributions remain concise and to the point? For the purposes of an effective debate, if your point has already been raised, I would respectfully ask you to withdraw your request to speak. We will begin the meeting by asking our Democratic Services Officer for the evening, Tracy, to take a roll call of the meeting. Please unmute yourselves and please confirm that you are present.
Thank you, Chairman. When I call your name, can you say whether you're present at the meeting? Councillor Christine Ambrose-Smith.
Present.
Councillor David Ambrose-Smith.
Present.
Councillor Sue Austin.
Present.
Councillor Anna Bailey.
Present.
Councillor Ian Bovingdon.
Present.
Councillor David Brown.
Present.
Councillor Charlotte Kane.
Present.
And I understand we have apologies from Councillor Victoria Charlesworth. Councillor Matthew Downey.
Present.
Councillor Lorna Dupre.
Present.
Councillor Lavinia Edwards.
Present.
Councillor Liz Every.
Present.
Councillor Simon Harries.
Present.
Councillor Julia Huffer.
Present.
Councillor Bill Hunt.
Present.
Councillor Mark Inskip.
Present.
Councillor Alec Jones.
Present.
Councillor Daniel Schumann.
Present.
Councillor Joshua Schumann.
Present.
Councillor Alan Sharp.
Present.
Councillor Amy Starkey.
Present.
Councillor Lisa Stubbs.
Present.
Councillor John Trapp.
Present.
Councillor Paola Trimarco.
Present.
Councillor Joe Webber.
Present.
Councillor Alison Whelan. Now, I understand that she may be late to the meeting. Councillor Christine Whelan.
Present.
Councillor Gareth Wilson.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Tomorrow will mark 3 weeks since the passing of His Royal Highness Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. As this is the first meeting of council since this sad news, I wanted to say a few words as chairman, and I hope members won't mind my also addressing this matter on behalf of the council as a whole. Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, performed a remarkable lifetime of service, and his striking achievements transformed the lives of many people. The Duke of Edinburgh Award Scheme and Prince Philip's patronage of organisations focused on the environment, industry, sport and education. And these have been particularly significant to the residents of East Cambridgeshire. The district had the great pleasure of witnessing firsthand the Duke of Edinburgh's interest and engagement with people of all ages and from all backgrounds. He last visited the region on the 19th of November 2009 with Her Majesty the Queen to mark the 900th anniversary of the Ely Diocese. He also opened Jubilee Gardens on February the 11th, 2002. On behalf of the Council, I have sent a letter to Her Majesty the Queen expressing the Council's deepest sympathies, and some of the contents I have shared with you this evening. And I have received a thank you letter from the Palace. I would like to request that this Council holds a 1-minute silence following the end of this Chairman's announcement to remember His Royal Highness, Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. We now come to item 1 of the agenda, which is public question time, and I believe that none have been received, which brings us on to item number 2, which is the election of a new chairman. And I would like to take the opportunity, before I do this, to say a huge thank you to members and to the staff for the support and help that they have given me as I've tried to manage as best I can to ensure that we have good debates and reach good conclusions. So thank you very much, all of you. I very much appreciate your support. So we have the election of chairman, and we have 2 nominations. Our first nomination is Councillor Alan Sharp, and he is proposed by...
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor David Brown. And second, would you like to say a few words, Councillor Brown?
If I may, Chairman, please. It gives me great pleasure to nominate Councillor Alan Sharp for the position of Chairman for 2021-2022. Alan was first elected to the Council in a by-election in February 2016, representing Bottisham Ward. In May 2019, he was elected to represent Wood Ditton Ward, where he lives. As well as serving as Vice Chairman of Council for the last year, Alan has also served as Vice Chairman of Resources and Finance Committee, Vice Chairman of Licensing Committee, and Chairman of the Bus, Cycle and Walking Working Party. In those roles, Alan has proved himself a valuable member of Council, and I can think of no better member to take on the role of Chairman for the coming year. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. And this is seconded by...
By me, please.
Councillor Amy Starkey.
And I'd like to just say a few words as well, please, if that's okay.
Yes, of course.
So it also gives me great pleasure to second Councillor Alan Sharp for the position of Chairman for 2021-2022 year. In the many roles that Alan fulfills within the district and beyond, Alan has proved to be a highly valued and passionate member of Council and the local community. His desire and dedication to improving East Cambridgeshire, in particular the Wood Ditton Ward, applying the highest level of integrity at all times, means that I believe there is no better member to take on the role of Chairman for the coming year.
Thank you very much, Councillor Starkey. And we have a second nomination, Councillor Gareth Wilson, and this has been proposed by Councillor Charlotte Kane. Do you wish to say a few words, Councillor Kane?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair. I'm proposing Councillor Gareth Wilson for Chairman of Council, as I believe he'll perform the role well and be respected across the district. Gareth has been a district councillor for 15 years and a parish councillor for 18 years. He's also active in community groups, generously sharing his accounting expertise, as well as his enthusiasm and hard work. What some of you may not know is that Gareth is an accomplished ballroom dancer. This allows him to show his skill at keeping time, leading his partner with courtesy and consideration, and being aware of all the other dancers in the room so as not to tread on toes or otherwise their free flow around the dance floor. A key role of our chairman is to preside over meetings of the full council so that its business can be carried out efficiently and with regard to the rights of councillors and the interests of the community. Gareth has sat on many public bodies and committees, often as chairman. He has good experience of leading meetings so that the business is carried out efficiently. He has shown his commitment to supporting the interests of the community for over 18 years. Most importantly, he has always treated all councillors with respect. I doubt any of us can imagine Gareth even thinking something derogatory about a fellow councillor, let alone saying something rude about another councillor. In the unimaginable circumstances where he ever did say something hurtful, I am certain Gareth would apologise immediately, publicly and fully. We can all be confident that Gareth would always have regard to the rights of all councillors. I'm sure that Gareth would make an excellent chairman of council in whom we could all have confidence, and I'm pleased to nominate him as chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Kane. And seconded by Councillor Mark Inskip. Would you wish to say a few words?
Yes, I'll just briefly say a few words.
Thank you.
So the chairman of the council is an important role. They're there to uphold and promote the purposes of the Constitution, and obviously preside over meetings of full council. They're also expected to be the conscience of the council, as well as to attend civic and ceremonial functions on behalf of the council in their role as the first citizen of the district. The election of chairman, as we have this evening, is an important decision. And if we were meeting in the council chamber this evening, we'd be able to see the list of past chairmen, a list of individuals, each with a very long and distinguished service to their communities. And I'd briefly like then to explain why I believe Councillor Gareth Wilson should join that list. So Gareth was most recently elected to the District Council in May 2019, but this wasn't his first term as an East Cambridgeshire District Council member. He completed 3 full terms between 2003 and 2015, meaning he's about to enter his 15th year as a District Councillor. At a more local level, he's served continuously as a Haddenham Parish Councillor for 18 years after moving to the village from London. He's very well known in his local community. Various community groups and organisations have drawn on his skills, particularly his accountancy background, with him acting as a treasurer for several of those groups and organisations. In council debates, he'll passionately put forward his views, but at all times sticks to the argument and can always be seen showing respect to his colleagues on both sides of the chamber. So I think with that depth and length of experience and those qualities, I'm confident that he's well suited to the role of chairman of the council, and that's why I'm happy to second his nomination this evening.
Thank you very much, Councillor Inskip. So we're now going to pass over to Karen and our RT team and to Maggie Kemp to conduct the secret poll voting, which will be done on Zoom. Yeah, that's good. So is the voting concluded? Maggie. So we'll ask Maggie Camp to give us the result, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm we have 17 votes for Councillor Alan Sharp and 9 votes for Councillor Gareth Wilson.
Thank you very much indeed. And now I'll ask the new chairman to read out the declaration of acceptance of office and put on his chain of office. Thank you. Over to you, Alan.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, but I don't know if everybody else is having trouble, but I don't believe we can hear Councillor Alan Sharp properly.
Can you hear me now?
That's better. Can you start again?
Yeah, I, Alan Gordon Sharp, having been elected to the office of Chairman of East Cambridgeshire District Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. And I'll sign that now. Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for electing me as your chairman. I will try to follow the lead led by Liz, who obviously Councillor Every, who chaired for the last 2 years, and hopefully follow the example that she set. Item 3 is a vote of thanks to the outgoing chairman and presentation of the past chairman's medallion and scroll. Obviously, we're in a virtual meeting, so we can't do that as would normally be done within the council chamber. But I just wanted to say a few words and would like to propose a vote of thanks to Councillor Every for her work on behalf of the district over the last 2 years, and especially the way that she has handled the virtual council meetings in what has been a very challenging year for all of us. And I think it's fair to say those meetings have run on the whole very well. And I would like to pass on my thanks to her for that. I don't know if anybody did you want to say something, Councillor Bailey, or?
If I may, please, Chairman, just on behalf of the sort of leadership of the council, I would very much like to place on record our thanks to the outgoing chairman, Councillor Liz Every, who has, as in everything that she does, enthusiastically and energetically embraced the role of being chairman of East Cambs. It's been a very strange time, as you said, new chairman, in which to be the chairman of East Cambs District Council. The COVID pandemic has obviously curbed a lot of the usual sorts of activity that would normally be undertaken, certainly over the last year. But I do very heartfelt want to thank Liz for the support she's given to officers and the council, particularly with tackling the COVID crisis and in her efforts to communicate with and support our communities throughout this time. She's done a sterling job. And it is a real commitment to agree to be chairman of the district council and to take on the refereeing role at full council meetings that can come with it. And Councillor Every has always been incredibly well prepared for council meetings. I believe she's presided over them fairly, sometimes sternly. I know I've certainly felt the wrath of the ex-teacher in Liz, my previous teacher, on occasion, but I am absolutely certain with total justification. And I know that the whole council will wish to extend our very grateful thanks to Liz for all she's done during her term of office. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for that. Okay, moving on, we've got item 4, which is apologies for absence, and that's over to Tracy.
Thank you, Chairman. As I said in the roll call, we've had apologies from Councillor Charlesworth and Councillor Alison Whelan. Unfortunately, because of the change of date for this meeting, it's clashed with a work commitment for her. So she is likely to be either delayed or she may have to send her apologies for the meeting, depend on when her work commitments finish.
Okay, thank you. Item 5 is declarations of interest. If I could ask members to use the raise hand function if they've going to declare an interest in an item on the agenda, please. I've got Councillor Lisa Stubbs.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations. I'd like to declare an interest on item number 18, as I am a trustee of the East Cambs CLT.
Okay, thank you. And then Councillor Anna Bailey.
Yes, also my congratulations, Chairman. And yes, similarly, I am a trustee of East Cambs Community Land Trust, so I'm declaring an interest in item 18 and would like to speak, and then I believe we'll be put in the waiting room.
Okay, thank you. Item 6 is to confirm as a correct record the minutes of the meeting on the 23rd of February 2021. I would ask members to use the raised hand function if they want to make a point of accuracy in respect of those minutes. I'm seeing nothing, therefore I'm assuming that everybody is happy that those are a true record of what happened on that evening. Item 7 then is election of the Vice Chairman for 2021-22. And we've got one nomination, which is Councillor Daniel Schumann, which is proposed by myself. And I just would like to propose Councillor Schumann because he is certainly a younger member of the council. So it's great to have younger members coming through, but also for certainly the community work he does for the arts projects within Soham that I think is a shining example of what can be done with good, vibrant community groups. And I think he will make a good vice chairman. And I've got a seconder.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I would like to second Councillor Schumann, who I am confident will fulfil this role with dignity and humour.
Okay, thank you. I would like to ask Councillor Daniel Schumann to read out his acceptance of office, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I, Daniel Schumann, having been elected to the office of Vice Chairman at East Cambridgeshire District Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Schumann. And look forward to working with you over the next year. Item 8 is Chairman's announcements. I've only got one item which I'll read out to you. It's in respect of remote meetings. Councillors will be aware of the announcement made yesterday that the application to the High Court made by ADSO, LLG and Hertfordshire County Council in relation to virtual meetings provisions for local authorities has been dismissed. This means that the legislative provision that currently enables local authorities to conduct remote meetings will expire on the 6th of May 2021. You will note that there is a motion and a report later on the agenda to consider the implications of this. So I would leave that to the debate that I'm sure is going to happen later on in the meeting. Item 9 is to receive petitions, and I believe there are none.
That's right, Chairman.
Thank you, Tracy. And then moves us on to item 10, which is the notice of motions under Procedure Rule 10. And the first one of those, item A, is the endorsement of the Fenland flag, which is proposed by Councillor Bailey and seconded by Councillor Huffer. I would ask Councillor Bailey to present the motion, and Councillor Huffer, you reserving the right to speak at this
I
stage?
reserve the right at this stage. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and I'm truly delighted to be proposing this Council's endorsement of the Fenland flag for inclusion in the registry of the Flag Institute. And what a great flag it is. I'm holding it up here, it's been proudly reproduced in the Council agenda for this evening, but just for anybody watching, here is what the flag looks like. It is a great flag. It depicts the fen tiger. It's immediately recognisable to local people as a visual representation of a fierce and motivated local population when roused about a particular local issue. And I'd like to thank Mr. James Bowman for creating the flag and offer him and his colleagues our congratulations on the successes they've had to date in the promotion and take-up of usage of the flag. I've seen it in use regularly across the district, and it's certainly already well embedded as part of the local landscape. Mr. Bowman advises that his design for this flag places the heraldic tiger in a central field of yellow, which represents agricultural prosperity, and the blue outer fields of the flag represent the region's natural and man-made waterways. The campaign has taken a bottom-up approach to getting take-up of the flag, and I know that Mr. Bowman would like me, on his behalf, to thank a number of keen supporters that have helped him in this quest to date. They've worked incredibly hard, and that's Dan Barlow, Lisa Dodge, Benjamin DiGiulio, David Good, Terry Munnelly, Auntie Roberts, Time Starkis, Bob Todd, John Turton and Graham Vaughan, and most of all, I think particularly from Mark Elvin and Cheryl Wright. The flag is in use in a number of locations, and the campaign is supported by businesses across a number of different sectors, as well as local community groups and organisations. There really is good evidence of widespread use of the flag, which is growing, and it is already included on the British County Flags website. So I'd therefore ask all members to join me in congratulating and thanking Mr. Bowman and his colleagues on the success to date of the campaign, to encourage and endorse the inclusion of the flag in the registry of the Flag Institute, and to wish Mr. Bowman the best of luck in his efforts to have the flag recognised by the Flag Institute. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Have we got any, I've got no hands, blue hands. We've got Councillor Bill Hunt. You're on mute, Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Chair. I will obviously, I think, support this this motion, and I think it's really great that we should be proud of the area that we live in and that we represent. And of course, East Cambs is a great chunk of what you'd call Fenland. I just thought, while I was listening to Councillor Bailey, that we should, and I would like to see it happen, that we will have the honour of displaying and flying this flag on our flagpole on special occasions. And I think if we're going to support it, we ought to fly it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. I'm seeing no other hands on this, so I'll go to Councillor Huffer, who was the seconder of the motion.
Thank you, Chair. I just think that we are a wonderful, vibrant community who completely embodies the fighting spirit of the Fenland Tiger, and I fully endorse this motion. I think it's a wonderful idea, and not before time.
Thank you, Councillor Huffer. I'm sensing with this that there's unanimous approval of this. So do we need to go to a vote, or if anybody does want to go to a vote, can they raise their hand? No, I'm seeing nothing. So that's been, I take that as unanimous approval of that motion. That moves us on to item B, which is the virtual council meetings. Motion proposed by Councillor Mark Inskip and seconded by Councillor Charlotte Kane. Did you want to introduce this item, Councillor Inskip, and do you wish to reserve your right to speak, Councillor Kane?
Yes, I reserve my right to speak.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Inskip.
Yes, yeah, I'll propose this motion. So We were due to be holding this meeting next month, but because the legislation enabling us to meet virtually expires in a week's time, as you've already said, it's being brought forward. The COVID-19 pandemic and the associated restrictions have prevented us from meeting face to face since March last year, and it's thanks to temporary legislation that we have, however, been able to meet virtually. And in a difficult situation, that's enabled local democracy to continue to function effectively over the past year. We will be discussing later tonight the immediate difficulties created by the government's failure to extend the temporary legislation that will prevent us continuing with virtual meetings quite in that format, but I know we have an option that will enable us to at least work in a similar way. So I'm not going to address that now, because we'll be discussing that later. What I do want to do, though, is to reflect on and recognise the success of our virtual meetings and the advantage we gain or would gain in the future as a council if we had that flexibility of meeting either virtually or face to face. To some of us, the idea of online meetings is nothing new. I participated in my first video conference more than 2 decades ago, but in those days the technology was expensive and only available to a few. Now the technology to participate in virtual meetings is readily available, and it's very easy for the public to watch our virtual meetings. There have, of course, been occasions over the past year when it would have been much better to meet face to face. But equally, at times there are advantages of being able to hold virtual meetings. You know, many councillors live quite a distance from Ely. It's we're a large rural district. For some, it's an hour's round trip to come to a committee meeting. It's not always easy, particularly in winter or when people have got work commitments to get to meetings. And those meetings can be spread across the day, the morning, the afternoon, the evening, and often the time in between can be wasted if members have only come into Ely to attend those meetings. We declared a climate emergency back in October 2019. By attending virtual meetings over the past year, we've not had to drive to council offices. And in general, when we're living in outlying villages, driving is the only viable option to get to those meetings. And so we've saved on our carbon footprint. We've also saved where members claim travel expenses to attend those meetings, and not a huge cost saving, but we've made a saving. And clearly, when finances are tight, any saving is helpful. Councillors wish to attend district council meetings, but also parish meetings within our wards. There are some members who are also county councillors, and inevitably there are going to be a clash of dates or near clashes that mean that the councillors at times have to choose which meetings to attend, and then not attend all meetings, and that clearly isn't good for engagement. But if we have remote meetings, that provides more flexibility, and councillors can attend most or all of those meetings to the advantage of all councils. The engagement of the press and the public have also significantly increased. You only have to look online at the number of views recordings of our meetings have had. Often for policy meetings, policy committees, the viewing figures sit between about 50 and 100, for full council meetings more, and 1 or 2 of the planning committee meetings for some of the more contentious items even more. We've never had those sorts of numbers at face-to-face meetings. In fact, our venues aren't large enough to have that sort of capacity. Plus the need to travel to the council offices can be a barrier for members of the public to attend. Often the press don't turn up to our meetings, but now that they can see recordings and watch online either in real time or afterwards, I think we get better reporting of those meetings. Finally, there are councillors and would-be councillors who have work commitments, mobility issues, maybe they have caring commitments that mean that remote meetings are easier to attend. So I think if we had that mix of virtual and face-to-face meetings, we open up the possibility for a wider range and variety and diversity of people to be council candidates. So the purpose of this motion is therefore to call to have the flexibility to hold both virtual and face-to-face meetings. As I've said, some meetings are better face-to-face, some virtually, and potentially a hybrid model could work as well. But if nothing changes, we'll only be left with the option of face-to-face meetings. And that's why I'm calling on the council to write to the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, urging that temporary change that's been brought in during the COVID pandemic be made permanent, so that we have that flexibility.
If you can start summing up now, please, Councillor. Yeah, thank you.
We will have that flexibility to hold meetings either remotely or face-to-face, and also to ask our MPs, the County Council and Parish Councils to support that more flexible approach. I'd hope that all councillors today would also be able to support the motion that I'm proposing.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Inskip. Have I got any speakers on the motion? I've got Councillor Anna Bailey.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, I can't, I don't disagree with an awful lot of what Councillor Inskip has just said, but I actually can't find that this motion adds anything to actions that we've already taken by the council on the subject of how the council might run meetings in the future. It sounds as though Councillor Inskip perhaps isn't aware of activity that's already taken place, so I'll just flesh it out a bit. So government did put out a call for evidence on the future of virtual meetings to all local authorities, and all the group leaders in this council were consulted on that call for evidence, and I believe all group leaders provided their thoughts on the subject. Certainly for the administration group, I consulted with my colleagues and put forward our collective view for inclusion in the council's response. And I know that both the independent members put forward their own views, and I know that Councillor Dupre, as leader of the Liberal Democrat group, also responded. So just taking the call for action points in turn, therefore, looking specifically at the motion, the first one, which calls for us to write to MHCLG, to government. The council has already effectively done this. We've submitted the council's views to MHCLG, and that submission reflects the detail that the action point calls for, so that is already done. The second point about writing to various parties, following the submission to MHCLG, I did actually write to our two MPs to inform them of the council's views on the subject, so they have a copy of our submission. They've both acknowledged that, and will support the views of the council at Westminster. And I do feel that it's for the county and the parish councils themselves to put forward their own views for their own councils, and not really for them to comment on how we decide to run our council. So I can't really agree with that call for action. And the third call for action, which is about the use of technology, of course, should government decide to grant local authorities the power to choose how to run meetings in the future, which I hope they will, the council would of course ensure that appropriate technology is in place to encourage public participation. So really, given that all three actions that the motion calls for either have already been completed or will be so by necessity, I do feel that the motion is unproductive and unnecessary. So I'd actually invite Councillor Inskip to, now he's perhaps aware of more of the detail, to withdraw his motion. But if he chooses not to, for the reasons I've given, I won't be supporting it, because I just feel that, the actions have already been taken. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. I've got Councillor Harries next.
Thank you. The points that Councillor Bailey raised are obviously known to us. We have discussed this, we've had a lot of conversations about it, and we know everybody else has as well. But I think you may be missing a point here, which is that if we support this motion, then we put into the minutes of the council the fact that we, the members, would like to push forward the continued use of remote meetings and make sure that we are using our best efforts to mobilize opinion across the district. It's not that we think that this is going to make a dramatic difference. We don't. But it is a strong moral fact that if we can have solidarity and unanimity over our support for this approach and have that in the minutes of the council, then that is important. We all agree on this, I think. Nobody has very strong contrary views. It is therefore a positive action if, instead of automatically voting against the other party's motion, we just agreed on this in order to put it in the minutes as the opinion of all of us together. That is a positive thing to do, and will support the other actions that have already been taken, rather than contradict them. So that is why we put this forward, and why we would like to see it voted on. We would like to support it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Harries. I've got no other hands raised, so I'll ask Councillor Kane as the seconder to speak, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've been talking to quite a lot of residents locally, often through remote virtual means, but they have all been really pleased with the remote meetings, and particularly those for the planning committee, where they can attend the meeting, hear the arguments, and put their points if they're one of the appropriate speakers. So I think they have been hugely successful for the public in what is a very dispersed district, and as Councillor Inskip said at the beginning, for some of us it's more than an hour's round trip to attend, and that of course includes all the residents of this area when they want to attend and participate in or listen to debates. So I think that the virtual meetings, although they were forced on us, I think they have actually proved to be extremely useful. And I think it's important that we continue them. In terms of the actions, well, we haven't actually written to the ministry. What we've done is we've responded to their request for information, a letter saying that the council has met and it would have been nice, unanimously agreed, would be a very strong letter to send to the ministry. And in particular, given that we've just had the legal judgment that says it is going to be for government to decide this, there is no other proper way to do it. So I think us writing to the ministry would actually be a very timely and important and useful thing to do. Again, writing to our two MPs, it's good to hear that Councillor Bailey has written to them. It would be nice if letters were going to our MPs on behalf of the council, if we could all have a copy of them. Nevertheless, again, I think, because this is a motion that, subject to Councillor Bailey, if we passed it near unanimously, would be a very strong message to write to our MPs and tell them that this district council wants the government to change the law so that we can continue to have remote meetings as appropriate. And we frequently ask the county council and parish councils to join with us in a variety of projects and desires, and I see absolutely no reason why we shouldn't ask them to join with us, not least because they are also very keen to continue this facility. Ask them to join with us so we have a combined and strong approach to government. And certainly we do need to look at technology, because of course one of the downsides of remote meetings is that there are people who struggle to access them, and we do need to look at ways for how we can address that and make sure that those people can also make access to the remote meetings. So I think this is a really useful motion. It's an opportunity for us all to come together, apart from sadly Councillor Bailey, and send government a very clear message that we want remote meetings to continue as and when they're appropriate to hold remotely. So I ask everyone, sadly, other than Councillor Bailey, to support this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Kane. Okay, we've got no other, obviously the seconder just spoken, so if we can ask Tracy to take the roll call, please.
Thank you, Chairman. When I call your name, can you say whether you're voting for, against or abstaining on the motion? Thank you. Councillor Christine Ambrose-Smith.
Against.
Councillor David Ambrose-Smith.
Against.
Oh, point of order. Thank you.
Councillor Inskip, you've got a point of order?
Yes, I've not waived my right to sum up on the motion.
Oh, apologies. Yes. Sorry. Yes. Apologies, Councillor Inskip. Give that as a beginner's error, please. Thank you. Over to you, Councillor Inskip.
Okay, so I won't take too much time, but Councillor Bailey suggests there isn't a problem. But we should remember, as I said at the beginning, we're only meeting tonight because the government has refused to give parliamentary time, and that's the Secretary of State for the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. That's the person we want to write to. That Secretary of State has refused to provide the parliamentary time that was necessary to extend the temporary legislation, which would have enabled us to hold our annual meeting on the date that we'd originally agreed. And as was confirmed in the court judgment yesterday, that's the matter of virtual meetings is for the legislators to decide, not the courts. In Scotland, the Scottish Parliament has passed legislation that allows councils to continue to meet virtually. In Wales, the Senate has passed similar legislation. Councils in both of those countries can continue to meet virtually. In England, we don't have that ability after next Thursday. As a consequence, later this evening, we're having to decide between three unsatisfactory options to enable us to try to continue to transact council business in a safe and democratic way. All of those actions have shortcomings, and we'll no doubt come to that debate later. But for that reason, that's why I think it's very important that we don't dismiss this opportunity to put forward a view of this district council and to put this district council's view to the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State has failed us. That's why we're meeting this evening. We need to get that right. We need to make our view strongly. I realise Councillor Bailey may be not wanting to upset the Secretary of State, but when he gets it wrong, we should call him out for getting it wrong. And we should make the case to say that we should be extending the ability to hold virtual meetings as we have done, and not to have the sort of discussions that we're going to have this evening, none of which will give a good outcome. We should show a united view. We should be looking at parish and county councils and asking them to support that view. I know many would be very willing to do that. Let's try to do that. Let's try to show a united view to the Secretary of State, and let's get him to change his mind.
Thank you, Councillor Inskip, and apologies for not asking you to come back in before. So if we go to the roll call then, Tracy, please.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'll start again. Can you say whether you're voting for, against or abstaining on the motion? Councillor Christine Ambrose-Smith.
Against.
Councillor David Ambrose-Smith.
Against.
Councillor Sue Austin.
For.
Councillor Anna Bailey.
Against.
Councillor Ian Bovingdon.
Against.
Councillor David Brown.
Against.
Councillor Charlotte Kane.
For.
Councillor Matthew Downey.
For.
Councillor Lorna Dupre.
For.
Councillor Lavinia Edwards.
Against.
Councillor Liz Every.
Against.
Councillor Simon Harries.
For.
Councillor Julia Huffer.
Against.
Councillor Bill Hunt.
Against.
Councillor Mark Inskip.
For.
Councillor Alec Jones.
For.
Councillor Daniel Schumann.
Against.
Councillor Joshua Schumann.
Against.
Councillor Alan Sharp.
Against.
Councillor Amy Starkey.
Against.
Councillor Lisa Stubbs.
Against.
Councillor John Trapp.
For.
Councillor Paola Trimarco.
For.
Councillor Joe Webber.
Against.
Just check, has Councillor Alison Whelan joined the meeting? No, okay. Councillor Christine Whelan.
For.
Councillor Gareth Wilson. Councillor Gareth Wilson?
Sorry, for. I unmuted myself.
Thank you. So the motion is lost by 11 votes in favour to 15 votes against with no abstentions.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. We move on then to item 11, which is to answer questions from members. And we have 4 questions. And I would ask that the member who's raised the question to read that out, so obviously members of the public listening in can actually hear the question and understand what is being asked. The first one I've got is from Councillor Mark Inskip to the Chairman of the Finance and Assets Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So yes, so as you said, my question is to the Chairman of the Finance and Assets Committee. In March, the government announced the awarding of the £56 million Welcome Back Fund to principal councils, including East Cambridgeshire. These funds are intended to help boost tourism, improve green spaces and provide more outdoor seating areas, markets, food stall, pop-ups, giving people safer options to reunite with friends and relatives. Robert Jenrick, the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, in a letter to Councillor Sue Baxter, the Chair of the National Association of Local Councils, NALC, confirmed that the government is strongly encouraging principal authorities in England to work with parish and town councils to pass on funding from the Welcome Back Fund. So what steps has East Cambridgeshire District Council taken to identify opportunities to pass on funding from the Welcome Back Fund to parish and town councils? And what proportion of the funding received by the District Council is expected to be passed to parish and town councils?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Inskip. Councillor Brown, have you
Chairman,
got your response to that? Thank you.
I will. And just before I start my response, Tracy, I will email you a copy of my answer to this and the various other questions I've got. So thank you for your question, Councillor Inskip. The guidance notes and the supporting frequently asked questions document have only recently been published, the 16th of April and on the 23rd of April. And in fact, officers attended a webinar only yesterday. Now that officers have all the information available relating to the scheme and its eligibility criteria, they will be able to prepare an action plan that must be submitted to MHCLG before we begin to incur expenditure. So in a nutshell, watch this space. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brown. We move on to the next question, which is from Councillor Lorna Dupre, which is also to the Chairman of the Finance and Assets Committee. Councillor Dupre.
Thank you. My question is as follows. Prior to the full council meeting held on 31st of July 2020, a total of £71,487 was spent on the Meeple crematorium project. Following that meeting, and through to February of this year, an additional £91,451 had been spent, bringing the total expenditure on the project to £162,938. I understand that further expenditure on the project has taken place since February. Can the Chairman of the Finance and Assets Committee confirm the total expenditure to date on the Meeple crematorium project, i.e. the total of the £71,487 spent before 31st July 2020 and all subsequent expenditure to date? Further, can the Chairman of the Finance and Assets Committee confirm the forecast additional expenditure expected to be needed before the work to submit the planning application for the Meeple crematorium project can be completed.
Thank you, Councillor Dupre. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for your question, Councillor Dupre. I can confirm that the total spent on the crematorium project during 2020-2021 was £213,535.75. From April 2021 to date, there has been additional expenditure of £5,400. Therefore, the total amount spent since April 2020 is £218,935.75. With regards to your second question, I can advise that the forecast of additional expenditure prior to work undertaken for any planning application will be approximately £18,025, £18025. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. The third question I've got is from Councillor Simon Harris to Councillor Lisa Stubbs. So Councillor Harris.
Thank you. Councillor Stubbs, in the 12 months between 29th of April 2020 and today's date, 29th of April 2021, can you tell us, please, how many meetings of the East Cambridgeshire CLT have taken place and how many did you personally attend?
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Councillor Stubbs.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Harris, for your question. There have been 12 meetings of the East Cam CLT for the period that you stated, and I've attended all 12 of those meetings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Stubbs. The last question from members is from Councillor John Trapp to the Chairman of the Finance and Assets Committee. So, Councillor Trapp.
Thank you very much, Chairman. The Greater Cambridge Partnership, which is a partnership between South Cambs and Cambridge City Council, is having an extensive review with public consultation of access to Cambridge City from places outside the city. This includes the idea of stopping cars going down Newmarket Road. Now, the overwhelming majority of the traffic going west into Cambridge along the Newmarket Road is from our own district. Bottisham, Wood Ditton, Burwell, Fordham and Isleham, and both South Soham wards will be affected. I think also it may actually affect traffic going down the A10, but I'm not sure of that because I haven't been following that part of it. So the question to the chair of the F&A committee, because of they're in charge of the bus working group, is what consultative relationship has ECDC had with the Greater Cambridge Partnership in this matter?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Trapp. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for your question, Councillor Trapp. A draft response to the Greater Cambridge Partnership Cambridge Eastern Access Consultation was circulated to all members for comment by Sally Bonnet on the 14th of December 2020. The final consultation response, taking into account comments received, was submitted to the GCP on the 18th of December 2020. In addition to this, I represented ECDC as a substitute member at the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority Transport and Infrastructure Committee meeting on the 6th of January 2021. And I used the ECDC response to inform the consultation response from the CPCA to the GCP. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brown. That ends the questions from members, and we move on to agenda item 12, which is the leader and deputy leader of the council, group leaders and deputies. This is for noting, and there are no changes from the last municipal year. So does anybody want to speak on this, or are we happy just to note this item? I'm seeing no hands, so I take that this has been noted by council. We move on to item 13, which is political proportionality. And obviously we have a recommendation on this, so it's not just for noting. Do I have a proposer for that? I've got Councillor Anna Bailey.
If officers are introducing this item, but at the right time, I would like to propose.
Okay, thank you.
Recommendation. Thank you.
Yeah. And Councillor Schumann.
Thank you, Chairman. Happy to second.
Yeah, and reserve the right to speak.
Indeed. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I'll move over to does Tracy want to say some words on this in introduction, or?
Hopefully, Chairman, the report's self-explanatory. The proportionality has been calculated in Appendix 1. The group leaders were advised of the proportionality, and the results of that is presented in Appendix 2.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. So I'll move back to Councillor Bailey. If you want to say a few words.
Well, really, just to, I mean, it's very straightforward. We're noting the political balance, and we're asked to agree as set out in Appendix 2, and a very straightforward process took place on the seeding. So I'm happy to propose as per the paper. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Trapp who wants to speak on this item.
Just a small point about the audit committee. Other institutions I've known have used the opposition as with a majority and a chair of the audit committee. And I think it probably shows the continued insecurity by the administration to be subject to scrutiny. That is all I really wanted to say. It's just a minor point.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Trapp. I've got no other speakers, so I'll move. Oh, sorry, Councillor Bailey's got a hand up.
Yeah, just in terms of my right of reply, I will just address what Councillor Trapp said. Yes, many other local authorities do run their affairs differently. The majority of other local authorities, of course, are running on a cabinet system. We run on a committee system, and our committees self-scrutinise. That is exactly their role, and that is what we've been doing, in fact, in this authority for many, many years. The audit functions have been scrutinised through previously the Finance and Assets Committee. All we've done is separated the workload in order to make it easier for everybody concerned. So it is a continuation of the previous arrangements, and you know, as a committee member, members are there to scrutinise what's going on, and paperwork. That is the purpose, and I think the strength of a committee system.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bailey. I'll move to Councillor Josh Schumann in case he wants to say anything.
Very briefly, Chairman, just to reiterate the comment that the functionality of this committee isn't purely as a scrutiny function. This is an audit committee. This is not an overview and scrutiny. And therefore it'd be perfectly reasonable for the administration to still take a majority, as it is the wish of the electorate that the administration run the council. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Schumann. I realise Councillor Bailey's just spoken on it, but after my slip up with Councillor Inskip before, she does have the right to sum up if she wants to say anything more. But
no, I think we've just gone slightly out of order. That's fine. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, right, thank you. So I'm seeing no more hands. Obviously, do we go to? Am I taking that as that we've got a unanimous agreement on this? I'm seeing that if you don't agree with that, then please raise your hand. I'm seeing no raised hands, so we take that that's been unanimously approved. So that moves us on to item 14, which is the membership of committees and subcommittees.
I saw Councillor Dupre raising her hand. I'm not sure if the Chairman missed it, or it seems to have gone again.
Yes, it's not on my screen, but I'm happy if Councillor Dupre wanted to. Did you want to come in there, Councillor Dupre? Sorry.
I think you had moved on, Chair.
Okay, right, fine. Okay, I apologise. I didn't see it on my screen. Okay, moving on then to item 14, membership of committees and subcommittees. If I can ask just Tracy to introduce this.
Thank you, Chairman. As a consequence of the proportionality calculations in the previous item, the group leaders were asked to give nominations to the committees, and they are listed in Appendix 1.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Have we got a, obviously there is a recommendation on this, so I need a proposer and a seconder. Councillor Bailey.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I am very happy to propose, and in doing so, I'd just like to thank all members for their service on committees. And some people have more time than others, but thank you to everybody for the work they do for the council, and happy to propose the paper as tabled.
Okay, and do I have a seconder? Councillor Schumann.
Thank you, Chairman. Happy to second. I won't reserve my right because I believe this is just a formality for us to now go on from the previous item on the agenda, and so more than happy for us to approve the membership as tabled. Thank you, Chairman.
I did see Councillor Harry's hand go up and it's gone down again. After missing Councillor Dupre, I don't want to.
No, I was going to offer the second to make sure that we had at least one motion on the agenda tonight that was cross-party and ecumenical in nature. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harris. So I've got no hands, so I'm sensing we've got agreement on that, unanimous agreement on that. I'm seeing no blue hands. Okay, fine. So that's unanimously agreed. So that moves us on to item 15, and we've got two items on item 15, and we'll take them separately. Item A is the appointment to combined authority.
Thank you, Chairman. As you know, we've had to bring this meeting forward so that we could actually have it take place remotely, and we were in a fortunate position that we could do that because we didn't have elections this year. Now, as you're aware, a lot of other authorities in the county do have elections, and there are elections to the Police and Crime Commissioner and to the mayoral. So under the circumstances, we're not going to be able to have the proportionality calculations from the combined authority until after the 6th of May. So this is an expedient way of making sure that we can make our nominations in time for their meeting of their annual meeting of the combined authority on the 2nd of June. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. As this is a procedural matter, I'm happy to propose this from the chair. Do I have a seconder on that? Councillor Schumann, yeah?
Yes, happy to second, Chair, for the reasons you've just given.
Okay. And obviously we await the elections next week, and then after that we will know the proportionality that will then affect the membership of those relevant committees. I'm seeing no other hands raised, so I think it is very much what it is. So I think we accept that unanimously. And we then move on to item B, which is the reports from the of the Audit and Governance Committee on the 5th of March and the Overview and Scrutiny Committee on the 22nd of February. Are there any questions from members to the representatives on those committees? I'm seeing nothing, so that moves us on to item 16, which is the future of remote meetings. And over to John Hill to present this report.
Thank you, Chairman. The paper was brought to you in the event of either the judgment of the High Court being unknown at this moment, or as we now know to be the case, the challenge outlined in paragraph 3.3 being unsuccessful. As we've heard this evening, our response to the call for evidence detailed across party the merits of remote meetings, and the recommended option 1 provides council with a temporary solution to retaining those temporary meetings. The modus operandi for option 1 is summarised in paragraph 4.2, and for clarity, consultation in 4.2 with members means with the relevant committees or council. Normal procedures will of course apply. Nevertheless, as members can imagine, we need to change the wording of those recommendations and of course make appropriate constitutional changes. If members approve option 1 this evening, we do recommend that you review those arrangements by September 2021. Council has taken Council's opinion both prior to the publication of the report and today following the High Court judgment which confirms the lawfulness of our actions proposed. Nevertheless, Chairman, we are aware that there are differing external legal counsel's views on this matter for other authorities. And given that our most recent advice stresses that the proposal is only temporary and should be subject to further Council's advice on constitutional amendments, it may be pertinent for members and for Council this evening to provide discretion to the monitoring officer to bring forward the review period if she so recommends. The monitoring officer, of course, this evening is on hand to answer any further questions on this matter. The recommendations are set out in the paper, are in paragraph 2.1, and thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, John. I've got Councillor Bailey first.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to propose the recommendations and just have a few words to say about it. And I'd like to thank John and Maggie, our monitoring officer, and Emma Grimmer and others who have worked on this a lot over the last few weeks and sought council advice, etc. There's been a lot of effort put into getting to where we are this evening. Listening to what John has said, I would like to propose the recommendations, but I do just have an alteration to make for the revised wording, given the new emerging situation that we've just heard about. So recommendation 2.1 little 4, the last one, I would like to add to the end of the sentence the words or earlier on the advice of the monitoring officer. So the full point, little 4, would now read, review these arrangements by September 2021 or earlier on the advice of the monitoring officer. So with that altered recommendation, I would like to propose the recommendations. And I would like to just take the opportunity to correct something that Councillor Inskip stated earlier in the meeting as definite fact. And in fact, I do think he was a bit mistaken. It's actually, I've been quite close to, more close to this than I perhaps would have liked with people from Westminster. It's not actually the fault of the Secretary of State, Robert Jenrick, this situation. I can categorically state that Robert Jenrick MP, as Secretary of State, fought incredibly hard to secure legislative time for this issue to be dealt with. He really did. He fought extensively on behalf of local government. It was actually the leader of the House that decreed that there was not sufficient legislative time available. So my feelings on this and our sort of group position is, you know, it's a very difficult situation. Some members of staff and council members, you know, have been diligently isolating for many months, I suspect. And they may be doing that to protect themselves for their own very good reasons or to protect family members. They may be carers supporting vulnerable people with underlying health conditions. And whilst we know and are incredibly grateful that the vaccine rollout and the take-up is going incredibly well in East Cambridgeshire, there are still large numbers of people in our communities and people further afield that come into the district regularly that have not yet received their first vaccination, and many people obviously that haven't received a second. And also, of course, we know that government advice, at least until the 21st of June, when the situation will be reviewed, is still to work from home where possible. So I do support the pragmatic approach that is offered by option one, and will support it tonight. And I think council should feel reassured that we have sought legal counsel advice to support that position and the action that is being proposed. And, you know, that we do have that legal counsel advice to fall back on should it be necessary. And I do welcome the recommendation in the paper about having a review. And I do think it's right to have altered that to give ourselves flexibility about the timing of that review so that we can bring it forward if it's deemed to be helpful and right to do so. And I very much welcome a time when we can all once again safely meet physically. I look forward to it greatly. So with that, I propose the revised recommendations. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Do I have a seconder for?
Chairman, if I may, I know Councillor Dupre has her hand up. She may be wishing to second, but if not, I'm happy to second the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dupre, you.
Thank you, Chairman. I lowered my hand because I did not wish it to be assumed that I was going to second this necessarily.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I wanted to make two specific sets of points. The first point or set of points is that none of these options is risk-free. I'll take them in reverse order. Risk 3 is basically an abdication of democratic responsibility to and just allowing officers to decide everything. I think that would be utterly reprehensible, and I am glad that that is an option that the administration has decided not to pursue. Option 2, the risk is public health. That is absolutely clear, that we are being told by apparently the Leader of the House that we must go back to meeting in person even before the lockdown restrictions are fully lifted. I do not believe that that is a safe or appropriate course of action. Many authorities have decided that that is what they are simply going to have to do. And I know it is going to cause immense difficulties for some authorities, particularly some parishes, to my knowledge. The risks in the first option, which is the one the administration is intending to pursue, and therefore it is perhaps the most important risk because it is the risk that is most likely to happen in reality, is the legal risk. We have been told that we can be reassured that there is some legal advice saying that this is all right, but we all know that lawyers are paid and paid very handsomely to take contrary positions on things, and for every lawyer who will tell you this is absolutely fine, there will be a lawyer who will take good money to tell you it is not. And that will not be tested. It won't be tested, well, it will be tested, but not tonight. It may not be tested for some time, but it will be tested somewhere by somebody, and that may be here. And the tests will come when there is a planning application that comes to a remote meeting of a committee and is refused, and the applicant will challenge the legality of that decision on the grounds that we could not legally meet remotely. The other issue that may come up where this may cause a problem would be an award of a contract, where an unsuccessful contractor could argue that the committee or the meeting of the full council that awarded that contract had met unlawfully in its informal guidance to officers, and that therefore the award of the contract was invalid. We do not know. There is a risk, but to all of those options, but we have to do something. And my other set of problems and issues, well, not problems, but issues, is that the report is, as we have come to expect, unfortunately, very, very thin. And part of its thinness is that it does not indicate how this option 1 will work in practice. So I wrote to the Chief Executive and I asked for assurances on the following points. Will in consultation with members mean in consultation with all members who would normally take part in decisions? Will meetings take place in accordance with the Council's existing rules of procedure and any other procedures that have been put in place for COVID-related reasons? Will such meetings have written papers as normal for each item, published online and issued to the usual legal timetable? Will such meetings be open for public participation through the submission of questions and petitions? Will such meetings be streamed on YouTube for public viewing and recorded for permanent availability on YouTube thereafter? Now, all of those seem to be absolutely fundamental points about how this is going to operate and fundamental guarantees of the democratic process, but they have not been mentioned in this paper. In response, I had a response forwarded to me on the behalf of the Chief Executive to say that the normal meeting procedures would apply, that all those who would normally take decisions would be involved, and that there would be other arrangements. Papers will continue to be produced and dispatched, we continue to stream the meetings on YouTube. I'm very happy to hear that, but what I would like is to ask the Chief Executive tonight on the record to say, yes, those things will happen, and this is part of the package that we are voting on tonight. So can I please, Chair, ask the Chief Executive to confirm that all of those arrangements will be in place that we are familiar with?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dupre. Did you want to come back on that, John? Or?
Yes, very much so, and pleased to confirm that will be the case. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In that case, I have made my points, I think.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dupre. I'm seeing no more hands, so in that case, I can go to the seconder if he wants to say anything. Councillor Josh Schumann.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll try and be brief, but just to clarify once again that the decision to introduce legislation which had a sunset clause in order to provide legislation which would allow us to meet remotely due to COVID was a temporary piece of legislation, and we always knew it to be the case. That piece of legislation will come to an end, and there was no time within the parliamentary calendar in which to consider extending or making permanent any future legislation. So it's not strictly true to say that this has been stopped by anybody, whether that be the House, the Leader of the House, or the courts. This is a piece of legislation which we all knew at the time was a temporary or had a sunset clause to it. I'm not surprised at the jurisprudence of the courts with regard to their decision on the appeal. We understand very well the rule of law and the fact that the Parliament has its supremacy in decision-making around legislation, and that parliamentary supremacy should be protected at all costs. That being the case, I'm very pleased to see that Parliament have carried out a consultation, which Councillor Bailey referred to earlier, and we've responded to that, which suggests to me that they see this obviously as a very important issue, which they are gathering information on, and will no doubt endeavour to find the time in their legislative calendar in order to debate this issue and finally make a decision. But I absolutely appreciate that, although frustrating and difficult, because I think we have seen and we heard earlier about the many benefits of virtual meetings, I wouldn't want any decisions to be made either by the courts, which were contrary to the wishes of Parliament, or decisions made quickly without full consideration of everyone's thoughts and opinions on the issues. So in that case, I think we at the District Council have managed to find a really neat solution. And I echo and understand Councillor Dupre's comments that it doesn't come without risk, but it is a way in which to, I believe, manage risk appropriately. And I certainly think the risk of to people's health by meeting in person would be a far greater risk that I would not be willing to take, and not wanting any members to take, not at present, because obviously we have the medical advice which suggests that's the case, that it's not safe at present. So I'm pleased that we found a neat solution. If that neat solution is challenged, and who knows, Councillor Dupre may be right, it may be East Cambs that is the one that is the first to go through that challenge. We will once and for all know whether that was indeed the correct decision. And in the meantime, we can hope that the government will legislate in order for us to make a permanent decision in September or before. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Schumann. I've got I had gone to the seconder, which was Councillor Schumann, but Councillor Inskip raised his hand, and I know Councillor Harris did, but it's put it down again. In the interest of full debate, I'm happy on this one occasion to allow Councillor Inskip to come in on a brief item, but obviously I'll make it more obvious next time that I've gone to the seconder. But do you want to speak on this briefly, Councillor Inskip?
I'll be brief. I think the key thing, I think of all of the options, option one is clearly the best one, because I don't think we should be risking public health. But as has already been said, none of these options come without risk, and we shouldn't have been put in this situation to have to make a difficult decision, and one that puts the council at risk that could have been avoided. And we seem to be passing the buck around various members of the cabinet. But what is clear is that the SNP administration in Scotland thought this was an important enough matter to make time to legislate for it. The Labour Liberal Democrat coalition governing Wales took that same priority. The Conservative administration in Westminster didn't feel that this was important enough, and they have put us in this difficult situation.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Inskip. Councillor Bailey, did you want to sum up?
Yeah, just a couple of comments. Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to remind Council, you know, this is a temporary situation. It's not ideal. None of us wants to be in this position, but it is temporary. And, you know, we generally don't have many, if any, meetings in August. So we're really looking at May, June and July. And we will be looking, you know, carefully at the agendas. In terms of planning decisions, I have noted that Liberal Democrat run South Cambridgeshire District Council quite often delegates the formalities of taking a planning decision based on the advice given from a planning committee meeting and gives that formal decision-making power to officers. So it is a practice that has been going on for a while in South Cambridgeshire District Council. Perhaps our Liberal Democrat colleagues here will feel reassured that it is what their colleagues have been doing at South Cambridgeshire. And certainly council advice is that we need to do some very careful drafting of our constitution, and Councillor Dupre is absolutely right. You never get a guarantee out of legal opinion, and legal opinion is not always correct and hasn't been tested, as she absolutely states. So let's hope it doesn't get tested in East Cambs, but just a reminder that this is a temporary situation. We've given, with the extra wording that we've put in to the recommendations just now, we've given ourselves the leeway to bring the review date forward if we feel that that's the right thing to do. So all in all, I think we're making the best decision from a difficult set of circumstances.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bailey. No more speakers, so we move to the roll call, unless we've got, do members want to vote on this? I know there's been some dissenting. No, I'm getting shake of head. So if anybody wants to go to a formal vote, can they raise their hand now? I'm seeing nothing, so obviously it is what it is, so to speak. So it's a unanimous decision. Okay, thank you. Item 17 is the action taken by the Chief Executive on the grounds of urgency. Did you want to say anything to this, John?
No, Chair, it's for noting. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody want to comment on this? So I've got, put your hand up. I'm seeing no hands, so I'm accepting that that's been noted by Council. Which moves us on to item 18. Which is the loan facility to East Cambs Community Land Trust. And this paper is going to be presented by Ian Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Council is asked to approve the proposed loan to East Cambs Community Land Trust as detailed in the paper in your agenda. The loan will provide the CLT with the funding necessary to secure 15 affordable homes on the former MOD site, while also providing the council with increased interest receipts compared to those currently available from our Treasury investments. I've reviewed the financial business model, and as detailed in the paper, I feel with the security proposed on the loan provides very limited risk to this council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ian. I've got two members who've declared a prejudicial interest, and they've got a right to that they will speak and then leave the meeting. So I've got Councillor Bailey first.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you to our Section 151 officer for his comments just now and his work in bringing this paper to Council. And I noted his words about very limited risk very carefully. I do hope that all members will support this request to facilitate the transfer of the 15 shared ownership homes at the MOD site to East Cambs CLT. It's good for the council, it's good for East Cambs CLT, but most importantly of all, it is good for local residents trying to purchase a home and get onto the housing ladder. It was part of the Conservative group's manifesto promises to complete the purchase of the MOD site and to place the 15 shared ownership homes into a community land trust structure so that the homes would be subject to a local allocations policy under the control of local people. So the proposal here today helps to fulfil that promise, and it will mean that 15 families with connections to East Cambridgeshire will be able to purchase a home of their own. Refurbishment of 7 of the houses has already been completed, and the 8 flats will be finished this week, tomorrow. And buyers holding mortgage offers are already in place for most of the completed homes. People are waiting to get on with their purchase and waiting to move in. The Trust has had very detailed discussions about taking on the freehold ownership and management of these 15 houses. And the Trust is very comfortable and keen to purchase them in order to help 15 local families in owning their own home. The Trust does believe that the benefit of the homes being managed by East Cambs CLT is that through the allocations policy, the beneficiaries are assured to be local people with connections to East Cambridgeshire. This is a sound proposal. The financial modelling is robust. All parties agree that there is comfortable headroom in the income versus the loan interest payments, and capital repayments are made as the leasehold owners purchase additional shares in their homes. The Trust has taken independent financial advice that confirms the financial model is reasonable, it's deliverable, and it is robust. The main lender, which is Ecology Building Society, is comfortable with the principle of a loan from the council and with the overall financial model, and has invited East Cambs CLT to make the application for funding on these terms. The council's Section 151 officer supports the loan to the Trust by East Cambs District Council, and the council has received legal advice relating to its powers to lend and state aid rules that support the proposal. Ecology agrees with the shared first legal charge on the properties, which protects the council's interests. And it is also worth noting, of course, that East Cambs District Council will receive interest on the loan at 3.75%, which is far greater than is currently available using more traditional investment vehicles. So in summary, this fulfills the promises made to the residents of East Cambs in May 2019. It provides 15 affordable shared ownership homes to people with connections to East Cambridgeshire. It fulfills the objectives of East Cambs CLT, and it supports the council's corporate plan and provides a financial return to the council. But most importantly of all, it does allow 15 local families to own a home of their own, and I hope therefore that all members will support it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. I've also got Councillor Stubbs, who has declared an interest. Did you want to speak on this item before you leave the room?
Yes, please, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ian, and thank you, Councillor Bailey. I too hope that all members will support this request from East Cambs CLT, as supporting this request means supporting hardworking local people by enabling them to get a foot on the housing ladder and purchasing their own home. And as Councillor Bailey stated, the Conservative group made a promise to the people of East Cambridgeshire to provide affordable homes when we purchased this site. We were delighted when we seen the applications come forward from the local families for these homes, and we stand ready to deliver these and deliver on that promise. So supporting this request means meeting the objectives of the East Cambs CLT and our allocations policy to provide affordable homes for local working people. So I too do hope that all members will support this request this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Stubbs. Moving on to the recommendation. Do I have a proposer for the recommendations?
We haven't been put in the waiting room yet.
Oh, sorry, apologies. Sorry.
Put us in the waiting room.
Yep. Councillor Stubbs has gone. Councillor Bailey, they're both in the waiting room now, aren't they? Yeah, good, thank you. I've got Councillor Schumann's got his hand raised.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm happy to propose this item, and I believe I have a seconder.
Yes, that's me, Councillor Hunt.
Okay.
And of course, I want to reserve my right to speak if required.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hunt. Before I ask Councillor Schumann to speak, obviously we've got exempt appendix on this, so if members do want to raise anything relating to that exempt appendix during the debate, then we will need to move into exempt session. So I don't know if anybody, if they could raise their hand if they're at the moment intending to. Obviously, it doesn't stop you actually raising it, trying to go into exempt session later. But I'm seeing no hands raised, so I'll go to Councillor Schumann then to propose the recommendation.
Thank you, Chairman. And of course, notwithstanding your comment that we can go into exempt session later, I am pleased that the majority of this debate can happen in an open forum, because I think that's really important from a public perspective. So I will be very brief in my introduction, Chairman, because I think we had a very good report from our Section 151 officer and introduction from Ian. And we've heard two very passionate and informative speeches from the two councillors that have just had to leave because of their interests. I just wish to say very briefly that when we as a council are to consider a loan facility of this nature, I believe there should be three questions in our minds as members. Question one is who we're loaning to. Do they have the ability, and will we have the guarantee that this loan will both be paid back, or we have security against it if they're unable to pay it back? We've had absolute confirmation from that, from the Section 151 officer, and I have assurance that that's the case. The next question we asked is there any benefit to the council by making this loan? Again, we've had it confirmed that although a modest interest, that interest would have benefits, so there's financial benefit for us entering into this agreement. And the third and probably most important consideration is there a wider benefit other than the financial benefited from the person we're loaning to and the loan that we are offering and the income we get from the interest? Are there any other benefits? And quite simply, this one is incredibly clear that the benefits of us loaning to this is unlocking affordable housing and driving the agenda which this council has set in making sure that affordable housing is our priority. So those questions having been answered in this report, I cannot understand why any members wouldn't support the recommendations and make this loan and unlock that much needed housing and support the East Cambs Community Land Trust. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Schumann. I've got Councillor Dupre.
Thank you, Chair. And before this moves into a debate, I would like, under Standing Order 11.4, the Rules of Procedure 11.4, to move that this item be referred to an extraordinary meeting of the Finance and Assets Committee to enable more information to be provided to members, including a copy of the valuation, a copy of the affordability calculation, detailed cash flow from East Cambs CLT showing how the interest and the loans will be paid, a risk assessment with details of mitigations, robust loan agreement, a draft of the proposed charge, and clarity as to whether these properties are freehold or leasehold. I'm happy to say that I believe Councillor Kane is going to be seconding this, and I'm happy to give my reasons why when invited, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dupre.
Are you inviting me to speak, Chair?
Yes, please.
Right, okay, thank you. This again, I've spoken previously this evening about thin papers. This is an incredibly thin paper for a proposal to lend nearly £400,000. There is no analysis of the risks involved, the authority, and risk wasn't mentioned at all by the mover of these proposals in listing the three things that should be considered. And I'm astonished, frankly, that when faced with a decision of this financial magnitude, risk doesn't seem to enter the administration's head. And there is no assessment of risk. There is one mention of the word risk, which is simply that the Section 151 officer believes that there isn't much of a risk, but we have nothing to go on that. We also have nothing to go on some of the most significant pieces of information that are necessary to enable us to make an informed view of this. There have been two opportunities, two meetings of the Finance and Assets Committee at which these issues could have been explored and those pieces of information sought and provided. We are given to understand that discussion about this request for a loan came initially to the Council in February. There have been meetings in March of the Finance and Assets Committee which could easily have discussed this in a proper and well-informed way. This paper does not do that, and we believe that if we are going to do our due diligence as members of this authority responsible for a large amount of public money, that we need far more and better information than what we have here in front of us tonight, which is why we believe it is so critically important that this be referred. We don't want to hold it up indefinitely, of course we don't. That's why we've said an extraordinary meeting, so that something can be pulled together very quickly that will enable the Finance and Asset Committee to consider all those important issues and all of those pieces of information which are so completely absent from what we have in front of us tonight. That's why I'm moving the referral.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dupre. I've got Councillor Kane wishing to come in on this.
I wanted to confirm, Chair, that I am seconding that and reserving my right to speak.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kane. Do I have any speakers? Yes, I've got a few hands raised now. Councillor Josh Schumann.
Thank you, Chairman. This is probably another example which we've come quite used to over the last 2 years of rather than taking decisions, just pushing the can down the road. I was, when this issue was raised, I was interested in the detail behind this loan and the facility and the securities against it, etc. And so I asked the officers, including Ian, who provided a very detailed report to myself and Councillor Bailey about this option, including legal advice, etc., on state aid, as we've heard reference to, which actually every member of this council is able to do. And so if there is significant concerns and lack of understanding of the risk, then members could have made sure that they had those questions answered themselves by contacting officers, and who would have been, I'm sure, only too happy to provide that information. Their failure to do so should not result in this being delayed and further kicked down the road. This is a chance for us to provide affordable housing. And like we saw at the start of this term, the Liberal Democrats yet again don't wish to provide affordable housing and put blockers in to, and then this site seems to be a recurring theme, that they seem to wish to block affordable housing for the residents of Ely, and I have absolutely no idea why. But that's why I wouldn't support this recommendation. We are the council, the body corporate, and we'll be making a decision about loaning the money from the body corporate, and I'm more than content that those risks have been fully assessed by our very capable officers. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Schumann. I've got Councillor Inskip.
Thank you, Chair. So just following up on Councillor Schumann's statement, this group has asked for the affordability calculation from officers. We've been told officers don't have that calculation. And our concern is whether these properties genuinely meet the affordability criteria that most people would recognise. If we look at the paper, so the trading company ECTC is selling the houses to the East Cambs Community Land Trust at 80% of market value. So that does fit with the government's definition of affordable housing. But East Cam's CLT will sell part equity in the homes at the property's full market value, which doesn't seem to accord with the government's definition of affordable housing. We're saying that, and the administration is saying that these homes meet the affordability criteria. If that is the case, we would like to see the affordability calculation to confirm that, because with the statements I've just made, if you look through those calculations, they don't appear to conform to that. We don't have the evidence before us that these homes are affordable and meet the government accepted definition. If we are to put £390,000 of public money at risk to deliver affordable shared ownership homes, we need to be confident we're delivering affordable shared ownership homes. There has to be a reason why that affordability calculation hasn't been shared with members. We would like that to be answered. If there is no problem with that, then we can quickly prepare, and that can be quickly shared at an extraordinary meeting of the Finance and Assets Committee. It ought to have been shared with the report that came to this council. But as I've said before, we've requested that. We've been told by officers they don't have that information. Without that, we don't know whether we are actually making a loan for affordable housing by the generally accepted definition.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Inskip. I've got Councillor Harries.
I am deeply concerned about every aspect of this transaction. I'm on the F&A committee, and over the past year, we have been delving into every calculation that's been made regarding the loans and regarding the viability of the trading company and everything that it does. So our concerns have been on the record in the minutes of every single meeting. And in every meeting, we ask for more information. And in every meeting, we fail to get information. And in every meeting, we ask for a recorded vote and are outvoted. And so the whole ramshackle enterprise continues. Now, as Councillor Inskip has just pointed out, we are not certain that these are affordable houses at all. And the old falsehood that's put forward over and over again, Libs talk a good game, but they don't actually want to give affordable housing to the hardworking people of Ely, in the end is a deliberate provocation calculated to upset the people who are absolutely committed, publicly committed, are known to be committed to affordability in housing. Now, I see three major issues with this, not simply with the risible proposition itself, but with the way that it's been put forward. The first concern that I have is that there's been a deliberate policy of evading scrutiny. And we can see from national government that this is now the classic modus operandi of the Conservative Party. We'll tell you what we're going to do, and we're not going to give you the chance to scrutinise. Now, one of these issues comes down to the CLT, the East Cam CLT. When this whole discussion began, we didn't even know of the existence of this body. We repeatedly asked for information about the CLT and were repeatedly not given information. 2 of our number applied to join the CLT, which is the right of every citizen for every CLT, and were told, was simply not given any reply, and then were told finally, after 4 different attempts, that they would be considered at the next board meeting, which presumably has happened because there must have been a board meeting, as Councillor Stubbs has told us, every single month of the past year. Falsehood after falsehood. The second point is the fact that you trash relationships in this council. We asked, in particular, I asked Councillor Brown, I think at 2 different meetings, why they had nominated the leader of the council to be a trustee of this body, the East Cam CLT. My point was, why would you put the leader of the council, the chief political figure in this council, on a body that is there to provide a community service? It makes no sense. There has to be something else behind this. We were fobbed off, and then finally the realization came when we saw the papers here. This isn't a real CLT. It's a special purpose vehicle that has been explicitly set up in order to make the unaffordable by sleight of hand suddenly seem to be affordable. Now, I know, I found out over the past 2 years just how much Conservatives despise their opposition. We are treated with contempt by you at every possible meeting. And I don't mind, because it's politics. It's what people do. You're not in this to give the opposition an even break. But this is getting more and more serious. You're digging a deeper hole with every passing meeting, with every new proposition, with every half-baked idea that is not supported by adequate information, that can't be adequately scrutinised. Remember, we heard from Councillor Brown that you've paid over £250,000 on the Meepole project that, again, you deliberately hid from us despite being directly asked about it. If you allow scrutiny earlier, you might get better decisions made. You might find that the opposition, instead of being troublemakers, are able people who would like to help if you are honest with them. These days, one simply doesn't know if we can trust you on any matter. And my final point, I promise, you are trashing the very idea of CLTs. This concept that's so important to you. At the last meeting, Councillor Hunt tried to reduce us all to tears by saying that CLTs were a force for good, and sometimes good actually comes of it. But now, every time people hear about a new CLT, they'll have to say, oh, is this a real one? Or is this one of those dodgy ones? Is this one of those things that's just an SPV for financial transactions? Depends on whose fingers are all over it. There are some people on this council where any member of the public will say, yeah, if they're involved in it, yeah, I'm stopping now.
Yeah, I've got a point of order. Yeah, but Councillor Schumann.
Point of order, Chairman. We've had quite a serious allegation there from Councillor Harries about the validity of the East Cam CLT. And I'd like to ask the monitoring officer whether that East Cam CLT is governed by Section 79 of the Housing and Regeneration Act 2008, which clearly states the trust objectives must be to provide benefit of local community housing, and they are legally obliged under trust and equity law to uphold those obligations. Can the monitoring officer confirm that, so we can be absolutely clear for Councillor Harries and Councillor Inskip, because they're making some fairly serious allegations about this organisation?
Over to. Did you want to comment? Sorry. Okay. Can we?
Am I allowed to say one thing in response to that?
Well, can we just hold on for 1 minute, Councillor Harries? And
yeah, yes, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, can we take a 2-minute adjournment just to discuss something, please? Thank you. Okay, we're back in session now. I'm going to ask Maggie Camp, the monitor officer, to say something on this. All I would say though is that I think in the last couple of contributions we veered off what is at the moment. We're discussing the amendment about referring this back to finance and assets. This is not about the actual main substance, but I'll pass over to Maggie Camp to.
Thank you, Chairman. I have to say that I don't know a lot about the East Cambs CLTs. I've just had to have a little look. All I can confirm is they are a charitable trust which was formed to deliver affordable housing, and would obviously need to comply with their objects of delivering affordable housing. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Maggie. I'll move on then to we've got a point of order from Councillor Downey. Sorry, Councillor Downey.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to quote now from East Cambs Rule Procedure point 7.1, which governs points of order. A point of order may relate only to an alleged breach of these council procedure rules or statutory provisions, and the members must specify both the council procedure rule or statutory provision and the way in which she considers it has been broken. That is not the procedure that was just followed. We can only cite a point of order when we believe that a particular area of the council's constitution has not been followed. I'm sorry, Councillor Schumann, but you can't just cite a point of order because you believe that what Councillor Inskip and Councillor Harries are saying is wrong. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Downey. And then a point of explanation now from Councillor Schumann.
Actually, it was from me.
Oh yes, sorry, you were before. There's one from Councillor Schumann as well. Apologies, Councillor Harris.
Fine. Two last things. My complaint about this was the way in which it was done. I am not saying anything about the constitution of the East Cambs CLT because I know nothing about it. What I'm saying is that it was dropped on us in a particularly offensive way. We have not been able to get inside it to find out what it does, despite the fact that we should be able to do that. And this is what we find gravely objectionable. To have the CLT suddenly appearing as if from nowhere, despite having 2 F&A meetings in which we've raised this and urgently asked for detailed information and did not receive it, is to me a case of you bamboozling us, and that is what I dislike. And that's also why I strongly support the amendment to bring this back to the place where it should have been discussed in detail in the first place, which is the F&A committee. It's not an attempt to kick things down the road. It's an attempt to safeguard the council through proper scrutiny, which, as I said earlier, could save an awful lot of time and trouble, because I see no scenario where this matter ends well. And I'd like some reassurance, and that will come only by looking at the detail. And now I'm finished.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harris. I've got then Councillor Josh Schumann.
Thank you, Chairman. And just very briefly, on personal point of explanation, I can agree to a certain extent with Councillor Downey that I perhaps didn't mention the part of the Constitution which had been breached, but I can confirm that it was Part 5 of the Constitution under Members' Code of Conduct. I didn't wish to allude to this, but we are under Part 5 of our Constitution obliged at all times to demonstrate honesty. And what members were suggesting, I did not believe to be honest. So that's the reason which I raised a point of order, perfectly within reason of our Constitution. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Schumann. I've got Councillor Hunt next. I've got a point of explanation from Councillor Harries. Sorry, Councillor Hunt, before you start.
Are you calling me a liar?
Well, obviously I'm not, but
not you. Is
no.
Councillor Schumann implying that I'm a liar? Because that certainly seemed to be the inference of what he was saying.
Sorry, Chairman, do you wish me to respond?
Yes, sorry, I was just about to ask you.
Thank you, Chairman. And I'd always respond through you rather than suggesting that that you would call anyone anything. Through you, Chairman, it's just under our Constitution, as I pointed out, we are obliged to be honest, and honesty means not misleading. And if you look at the definition of honesty, those two synonyms are very closely linked. So misleading people and misleading the public would be, in my opinion, considered as dishonest. And that's what I wish to clear up with the monitoring officer, which is why I asked the question under a point of order. So I don't think we need to labour this point anymore, Chairman. So with your permission, I suggest we just move on.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Schumann. I've now got Councillor Hunt who wants to speak on this.
Well, are we talking about the amendment?
We are still on the amendment, Councillor Hunt.
So
yes.
my seconding of the motion isn't applying at the moment, and I'm not speaking in the reserved right to speak.
No, you're not.
Well, I do find this is also very distressing, isn't it? I mean, even when Councillor Harris is trying to be pleasant, he refers to things as half-baked ideas and dodgy situations, and that we tend to sort of bamboozle people. And he said it's all going to end it's all not going to end well. Well, I would talk to the residents of Hadnam CLT, Streatham CLT, Soham and in Ely, and talk to those and say, has it ended well? Because Councillor Harris doesn't think it has. They're delighted. They're in their homes, they're enjoying them. And of course they're delighted. I just think I will keep my notes, I think, until I've completely listened to everybody, because I will have the opportunity to sum up. And I just think this is just another one of a sort of attitude by the people at the other side of the room, where they get really shocked when the administration try to administer. And I think that's what we have a duty to do. That's what the public put us here to do. The public gave us greater confidence than the opposition. We told them what we were going to do, and we're morally obliged to carry that out. That's what we're doing. We're administering, and we will continue to do so, I hope. I will talk again when we've got this amendment has been dealt with. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hunt. I've got Councillor David Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. I will be brief because I'm referring to the amendment, and it is kicking it down the road because decisions on loans like this are taken by council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brown. I've got Councillor Dan Schumann.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few points from me. Firstly, it would be good, I think, if we could take some of the heat out of this that Councillor Harris and his colleagues seem to have felt necessary to bring, and bring ourselves back to talking about getting 15 people into homes who need them, which is what this should really be about. To me, this is this is a decision which is being whipped up into a frenzy and clouded by a lot of things that are totally unnecessary. Councillor Dupre mentioned about heads of terms, cash flows, and risk stroke security. Well, actually, I believe that these things have been covered and are covered in front of us. There are some draft heads of terms for the agreement. It's very clear to me as a potential lender to this organisation from this paper that if they're offering the security of 15 homes for a loan of £390,000, that is more than enough security for any lender to feel safe. And there is also a point on page 2 which says that the CLT cash flow model confirms that the net rents after deduction of administrative costs comfortably cover the interest payments expected. Now, I don't know if Councillor Dupre received her papers as well in advance of the meeting as I did. I'm sure she did. But having seen that part of the paper. If she wanted to see the cash flow that it referred to, then rather than holding up 15 people from getting into their homes and possibly causing them to lose their mortgages by waiting and asking the question conveniently in public now, she could have asked the officers when she received the paper for a copy of that cash flow and reassured herself. Another thing is, Councillor Harries said that it's nothing to do with the constitution of the CLT, that his point. It has to, of course, be something to do with the constitution of the CLT, because as our monitoring officer quite rightly pointed out, it has an objects clause, which means that the CLT can only spend its funds in furtherance of its objects. So it's an absolutely key security which we have by dealing with a CLT, or in fact any charitable trust. And it should be giving us all a lot of comfort and heart that those legal legal protection is in place by using this vehicle. Also, I think it's absolutely right that this should be decided by council. It's council that's taking the risk, the whole council, not one of its committees. And so it's absolutely the right place for to have this debate. The affordable definition was also raised, I think, by Councillor Inskip. They are shared ownership properties, and there will be shared ownership leases. And I can confirm absolutely that's my understanding of that. And I'm sure that Emma Grimmer, if you would like her to, would further bring you confirmation of that. And finally, F&A have in fact received a paper about East Cambs CLT. That is a fact. So I just wanted to put that right, because we have been led to believe up to this point by our Liberal Democrat colleagues that that's not the case. And in fact, it is the case. To sum up, Councillor Harries said there is no scenario where this ends well. I'm afraid I couldn't disagree more. Of course, there's a scenario where this ends well, and that's that 15 people for the first time are able to afford a home in the place that they want to live and work. That's the scenario that will end well. And so that's why I think we should refocus our efforts on debating, what we should be debating, which is. Can I
stop you there? Can I stop you there, Councillor Schumann? Can I stop you there?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Because I've got a point of exclamation from Councillor Inskip. You're on mute, Councillor Inskip.
My specific request, which maybe Councillor Schumann missed, was I asked to see the affordability calculation, and that's one of the requests in the proposal that Councillor Dupre has made. Has Councillor Schumann already seen that? It seems to be that he feels he already has that information.
Did you want to respond to that, Councillor Schumann?
The affordability calculation.
Thank you. I'm happy to, Chairman, if you'd like me to.
Just very briefly, yes, please.
Very briefly, the answer is I think the information that this paper gives us is adequate to prove affordability. We're talking about 15 homes with a fixed charge against them, secured for a loan of 390,000, and we have it in black and white from our section 151 officer that the cash flow works and that they can afford the repayments. What more do you need? Thank you.
I don't think he understood the question.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor John Trapp.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Mention has been made. I'm speaking to the amendment, not to...
We are on the amendment still, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mention has been made about the CLT cash flow being comfortably covering the interest payments. Now, I'm probably a bear of little brain, but I'm not quite sure how this is going to cover the interest payments, that the rents equate to 2.73%, and the interest payments are going to be 3 3/4. So there is a slight thing there, what you're saying, how are you going to cover that on from the rents? So that is one point that I want to make. The other point is that I am actually delighted that if the council actually providing affordable housing. I'm not sure it is affordable housing, but it's delighted that actually we might even risk losing this money in the hope that someone will have a comfortable house. Actually, one ought to be talking about houses and dwellings, not homes. Homes is what people make of them. Houses and dwellings are what we construct. And it goes against all of the principles of this council that we actually give something for nothing. But there's not enough information here of whether we're giving something for nothing here. We don't know what's going to happen to this. So that's the reason for the amendment. I think it is very important that this paper does not give enough information at all of what is happening. And therefore, that is why I think I would be supporting the amendment. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Trapp. I've got no more speakers on the amendment, so I can move to the seconder of the amendment, which is Councillor Kane.
Thank you, Chair. We're told that Ecology's valuation of the retained equity is £1,150,000. So that's what the security is apparently worth. I say apparently because I am told by our officers that we do not have copies of the valuation. We are relying on what we have been told by other people, which in itself seems pretty high risk to me. Anyway, apparently it is worth £1,150,000. Against that, they are taking out a security because they are lending £920,000. We are being asked to lend £390,000. If you add 920 to 390,000, what you get is £1,310,000. So between us and Ecology, we are lending 114% of the value of the asset. Now, 100% loans are pretty rare because even a small reduction in the value of assets creates negative equity. 114% loans are virtually unheard of, although in the interests of accuracy and not misleading anyone, perhaps I could remind people that Northern Rock did indeed give 100% plus loans just before they collapsed in 2007. And indeed, some of these more than 100% loans were the reason for the financial collapse. Then there's the transactional costs of realising the value of an asset, surveyors' fees, legal fees, etc. So at least some of this loan is at risk, even if it's secured on the asset. And I really encourage members to look at that. I wonder if you've all read these papers properly. 114% loan. That is very high risk. If we're going to take that level of risk, then we need to check at least three things. One, that it is going to deliver affordable housing. I did ask the finance director and I did ask our commercial director for the affordability calculation and why these houses are deemed to be affordable given that they're being sold at full market value. I was told indeed, as members have said, that they're deemed to be affordable because they're being sold as shared ownership, which means we need to see the affordability calculation, which says how much are these people going to be paying in their mortgage, plus their rent, plus any service charge, and compare that to average salary. We haven't seen that. We don't know if these houses are affordable. On the face of it, on the evidence we have in front of us tonight, because they're being sold at full market value, they're not affordable. We also need to show that we've considered all the risks and taken mitigation measures where possible. So I did ask the Section 151 officer for a copy of the risk assessment. This was his reply, verbatim. No formal risk assessment has taken place, but all of the information provided has given me the assurance that the risk to the council is minimal. We are giving a 114% loan on the asset against which it is secured, not us personally, us and Ecology. And yet our Section 151 officer has done no formal risk assessment. That's why we need to have another meeting, so that we can see that formal risk assessment and the mitigations. This is public money we're talking about. In terms of the cash flow, of course, we've asked to see the cash flow. I can't talk about it in detail because it's confidential. What I can say is it is not a detailed cash flow. It does not show in detail how they are going to manage to make their interest payments month in, month out to ecology and to us. So I would like to see a detailed cash flow. And then you look at the loan agreement. Our proposed loan agreement covers 2.5 pages and therefore has very little detail in it. Not least, it lacks the details of what our rights and remedies are in the event of any default by the borrower. In comparison, Ecology Building Society's standard loan agreement covers 23 pages and goes into a great deal of detail, including its rights and remedies in event of a default. When we asked the Section 151 officer to explain why he decided on such a light...
You're coming to near 5 minutes, Councillor Kane.
Okay, well, suffice it to say that we have no proper risk assessment, the loan agreement is inadequate, and we have no evidence that this housing is affordable. We need to have that evidence before we take this decision. I would like a recorded vote under 913 of our Constitution, by which I mean each and every member is listed in the minutes by name as to how they voted, because we are taking a huge risk with public money. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Kane. I've got no more speakers on this, so do Councillor Dupre want as the proposer of the amendment? No, sorry, no. We just go to the vote. So, so Councillor Kane has asked for a recorded vote. I've got Councillor Josh Schumann wanting.
Chairman, this has probably shown my ignorance. Apologies. Do I, as the proposer of the original motion, have the right of reply?
You do, yes, yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to check that was the case. I just I'll be very brief, Chairman. This amendment's taken far too long already. We have a proposal in front of us that I believe there's a point of order, Chairman.
Councillor Inskip, point of order.
Yes, we keep referring this to this as an amendment. This isn't an amendment. This is a procedural motion under the Constitution, as Councillor Dupre explained at the start, and therefore we should be treating it in that way. We seem to be treating it as an amendment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll go. In which case, then we just go straight to the recorded vote on this, if we're treating it as a, and happy to do that. So if Tracy wants to, we've got a recorded vote requested. So if Tracy can take the roll call and.
Thank you, Chairman.
And remember, members, we're voting on the amendment at this point in time.
We're voting on a referral back to Finance and Assets Committee in accordance with 11.4.
Yep.
So when I call your name, can you say whether you're voting for, against, or abstaining? Councillor Christine Ambrose-Smith.
Against.
Councillor David Ambrose-Smith.
Against.
Councillor Sue Austin.
Against.
Councillor Anna Bailey.
No.
She's.
Oh, sorry, beg your pardon. No, she's out. She's in the waiting room. Yes,
she's in the waiting room.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I beg your pardon. Councillor Ian Bovingdon.
Against.
Ruby. Sorry.
Against.
Councillor Ian Bovingdon. Councillor David Brown.
Against.
Councillor Charlotte Kane.
For.
Councillor Matthew Downey.
For.
Councillor Lorna Dupre.
For.
Councillor Lavinia Edwards.
Against.
Councillor Liz Every.
Against.
Councillor Simon Harries.
For.
Councillor Julia Huffer.
Sorry, against.
Councillor Bill Hunt.
Against.
Councillor Mark Inskip.
For.
Councillor Alec Jones.
For.
Councillor Daniel Schumann.
Against.
Councillor Joshua Schumann.
Against.
Councillor Alan Sharp.
Against.
Councillor Amy Starkey.
Against.
And Councillor Lisa Stubbs in the waiting room. Councillor
Yes.
John Trapp.
For.
Councillor Paola Trimarco.
Against.
Councillor Joe Webber.
Against.
Councillor Alison Whelan hasn't joined the meeting. I just check. No. Councillor Christine Whelan.
For.
Councillor Gareth Wilson.
For.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that referral is lost by 9 votes, 4 to 15 votes against, with no abstentions.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Can I just say, during the last bit just there was some background noise going on, so if members can mute themselves to avoid that, that would be great. Be very grateful. So we go back to the original proposal, which is the recommendation 2.1, small 1 and small 2. And I've got Councillor Schumann has already spoken on the original. So I've got some hands. I've got Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. This CLT is supposedly producing affordable housing. My definition of affordable housing is housing for rent for people who can't afford to buy. Now, that I know isn't the government's definition, but even if you are going to have shared ownership housing, it's affordable housing, which, if the housing can be retained for the benefit of the people of East Cambs indefinitely. And this arrangement doesn't do that, because this arrangement allows the person to buy up to 100% of the house at the full market value, but just in parts. So in fact, it's just a method of selling market housing and not really affordable housing. Now, the Hadnam CLT has 2 shared ownership out of its 19 houses, and all the rest of them are for rent. And we devised the whole system so that they would be for rent. And we made sure that we didn't have to go to East Cambs or anybody to borrow a little bit of extra money. So the whole thing was set up so that that would work over a long period of time, but only with a very complex forward plan and budget, and showing how the thing worked over the next 25 years. And we also set up the CLT so that it contained, first of all, well over 100 inhabitants of Hadnam to participate in it. And our board of trustees, which is about 10 people, have spent a great deal of time and effort making sure that the thing is done properly. And it is working extremely well, and we've already got 5 people in houses, and that's all working fine. So CLTs are a good thing if they're done properly. But the trouble with this CLT is it's done in secret, and we don't have members of the public. Every inhabitant of East Cambs ought to have been invited to join it and pay their £1 share and become a member. This is what we did in East Cambs. We also, in Hadnam, we asked every member of the parish council would they like to become members, and most decided they would be. But nobody's asked me, for example, if I'd like to join East Cambs CLT and offer my experience on it. It hasn't been asked because it's not what is being done. It's being done in a hole, like a hole in a cupboard, and I don't like that. I think that we should be doing it more openly. My personal view is that we need to give this loan to the Hadnam CLT. I think there are people who've committed their savings and got through all the things that they need to do to buy a house, and they're waiting anxiously to get on with it. So, you know, we need to do this thing quickly so that we can look after these 15 families. I hope it's 15 families, not 15 people. We're talking about 15 people, but it should be 15 families, I hope. But I only wish it'd been done properly. You know, it just seems not being, you know, it's being done in a confusing way. I mean, East Cambs bought the houses originally. The logical thing to do would have been to rent them out as council houses, just like they've done in South Cambs with houses and in Cambridge City. You know, it's perfectly possible to do that. We should have done it, and then it would have been simple and easy to do. And we wouldn't have all this fuss and bother about moving the money from this to this to this to this and back again, and who's resulting in it and who's taking part and who's got to declare an interest. That is simply, would have been simply unnecessary. Now, I hope that we can do CLTs properly, and I hope that in future the East Cambs CLT will follow the example of the Streatham Wilburton and the Haddenham one and the Swaffham one, where they are genuine CLTs run by the people who actually live in the area and are doing it properly. So let's hope that happens. And although I don't like the idea of staircasing right up to 100%, I think, you know, we're stuck with it. This is what's been agreed. It isn't really proper affordable housing, but at least some people will get some homes eventually. So, you know, I don't like how it's been done. I think we should have had more information. I think we should have discussed that in a committee, not try and do it in full council meeting. It's a muddle. It's caused lots of painful worry, and it's caused lots of worry to the 15 people who think that they've virtually got a house, and it's all hanging in the air. So I think we ought to have done it better and more professionally as a local authority. But you know, at least let's get on with it now. We've got it. I don't like it. I don't like what's being done. So I think at this point of time, even though
can you start to sum up now, please?
I will say that I don't like how it's being done. I'm happy that we get some housing of these houses out to people, and therefore I should abstain rather than voting against it. I should, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I've got Councillor Dupre.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to start with those 15 people or 15 families, because at the heart of this are 15 families who need to move into housing that they can afford to live in. And nobody wants that more than I do. But, and it's not a but that says I don't want this, it is a but that says in conjunction with that, we have to balance, and I find it extraordinary that I'm having to say this to Conservative members, we are the guardians of the public purse, and we have to do things right with public money. Now, I'm concerned at the conflicts of interest that arise in all of this, because they are legion, and I have been talking about conflicts of interest ever since the trading company was set up in the first place. The trading company was lent money by the combined authority and the district council to buy and refurbish these properties. The council and the combined authority can only be repaid if the trading company sells the properties at a good price. And there are members and officers of this council who are involved at 2 or even all 3 of those levels. The CLT first discussed this loan with the district council in February, we're told. The first opposition members knew of it was when these papers were sent out. The Finance and Assets Committee has met twice since then. It has approved the business plan of the trading company and extended its loans to East Cambs Trading Company. All of those decisions were taken without being told that the proposed purchaser of 15 of the properties owned by the trading company did not have the funds to complete the project and was seeking a loan of £390,000 from the district council to cover the gap. This was a significant risk to the delivery of the business plan and the cash flow of the trading company, and therefore their ability to service the loans from the District Council and the combined authority. Once again, there are members and officers operating at all of those levels, and the interests are not clear. The CLT keeps the full 685,000 discount from the trading company on these properties. The CLT is requesting a loan of £390,000 from the District Council to finance this project, leading, as Councillor Kane has already observed, to loans of 114% of the residual interest in the property. If the District Council does not agree this loan tonight, the further delay will mean a delay in cash flow to the trading company. Again, we've got members at all of these levels, members and officers, whose interests are being served by this. And I just want to talk about each of those bodies and what they get out of this, because I think it's really important to be clear about what is on the table tonight. The District Council will benefit from a slightly higher interest rate. That's fine, but it puts £390,000 of public money at risk and can recoup that money only as people buy increased percentages of their home. It is entirely reliant on people taking up greater proportions of the share of their home. Otherwise, we do not get that capital back. The trading company has been used as a middleman to sell the properties that it has acquired from the District Council at a discount, not a discount that benefits the buyers, but a discount that benefits East Cambs Community Land Trust, to which, in an extraordinary coincidence, the leader of this council was appointed within the last 2 months. The Community Land Trust takes all the benefit of that gap between the discounted purchase price and the price at which it's then selling on these properties, and benefits substantially from that. And finally, the most important people in some ways in all of this, the buyers, are buying properties at full market price to subsidise the CLT, to put money into the coffers of the CLT, and effectively those 15 buyers will be subsidising any further affordable housing that the CLT provides. This is not what a CLT is meant to be doing. This is not an appropriate arrangement. This is full of questions that need answers, and when we have asked those questions of the council, of the people involved, we have been told either that the information does not exist or given answers that are so vague as to indicate that no thought has been given.
Can you start to sum up now, please, Councillor Kane? Councillor Dupre, sorry.
Yes, I'm going to say one final thing. Councillor Joshua Schumann made the outrageous suggestion that disagreement, that honestly held differences of view, were dishonesty. I find that utterly reprehensible. It is perfectly acceptable. In fact, it is the lifeblood of politics to have differences of opinion that are honestly held, and to impugn the integrity of someone with whom you disagree just because you disagree with them is frankly appalling.
Thank you, Councillor Dupre. I've got Councillor John Trapp.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Regrettably, Councillor Dupre has said most of what I wanted to say, but much more eloquently. When I was reading this paper, when it arrived, I just found it actually mind-boggling that affordable housing is meant, you know, the CLT is taking money, is getting houses at a discount and actually selling on the properties at full price, market house. I don't know how you can call this affordable. I really don't know. I'm involved in some vague way with the Swaff and Bulbeck CLT, and there's a very different model for this about how the affordability, and also for people who will buy them or part buy them. And all the properties will actually be retained by the CLT for perpetuity. not given up 100%, which is really, it's a market evaluation. This is what's happening. And all it means is that they pay some mortgage, they pay mortgage on the capital they earn, but they pay rent, which is going to be almost equivalent to the mortgage that they on the remaining part of their equity. So where is the affordability? I do not understand this. I've been talking with a friend who's had a buy-to-let house, and actually she's having real problems with how to afford going on, because the part of the affordability has been, it actually hasn't worked very well. People are constrained then forever to live in that kind of situation. So I don't think this is actually, I'm delighted that we've got people, the families will be moving in and using these houses. That's terrific. And I think because of this, I certainly will be not against this motion. I certainly can't support it because there's lots of time since we were told it was December 2020 when the ECTC was agreed to sell these houses. So we've had 4 months that could have been presented well in advance to the council about what the activities of the ECCLT would be. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope it makes some sense.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Trapp. Councillor Kane.
I find myself in a very difficult position now, because I wanted this referred so that we could have a proper discussion with proper evidence. But I am horribly aware that there are 15 families who you could say have been strung along. They have been allowed to sign agreements to purchase property, and as we heard earlier from another member, may well have arranged their mortgages on that property. And the CLT who signed this with them did it in the knowledge that it didn't have the money to finish the project and to allow this to happen. And so now we find ourselves in a position as a council that we either have to lend the money, which means with us and ecology, we will be lending 114% against the security, or we have to tell those 15 families that they can't have the home that they've been promised. I don't think that's very proper behaviour, and I think we should make it clear to East Cambs CLT that we will not countenance them behaving in that way in future. They should have come to us first to make sure that we were willing to lend them the money before they held out the prospect to these 15 families that they could buy a home. That's quite shocking behaviour. I also hope we will ask at the next Finance and Assets meeting East Cambs Trading Company some very serious questions. What sort of due diligence are they doing that they've gone down the track of selling the houses to an entity that doesn't have the funds to buy them? So again, their parent organisation, i.e. East Cambs District Council, either puts itself at significant risk by lending, again, as I say, with our partner Ecology Building Society, 114% of the security. Either we lend them that money or the sale doesn't happen. And then East Cambs Trading Company presumably struggles to pay its way. So we're in an impossible position because this hasn't been properly managed, brought properly through the Finance Committee and proper papers. I like Councillor Dupre, I just find it stunning to sit here with Conservatives who are always telling us how careful we've got to be with public money. And they seem to have thrown public money around on this with gay abandon. But the bottom line that really, really upsets me is these 15 families have had their hopes raised, and really, I'm not at all convinced that they're being given a good deal. And I really would like to see the affordability calculations. Even though I can't do anything about it now, I would still like to see them so we as a council can satisfy ourselves that at least at some level, these houses are affordable, because these people are buying houses at full market rate. They're paying mortgage on the bit they can get a mortgage for. They're paying interest on the other bits and goodness knows what else. And I really don't think this is a good deal, but equally, I can't bring myself to vote against this so that they cannot move in to the homes that have been dangled in front of them and that they've been promised. But please, can we make sure we do things better in future? Because this is really, really shocking behaviour.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kane. Councillor Harries.
Yeah, I've got three things to say. The first thing is, I guess I'm a bit embarrassed about ranting earlier. I promised myself that I would calm down and not do that. And I have to say that my learned friends, Councillors Dupre and Kane, have just demonstrated impeccably how a really effective forensic analysis can help everybody to get underneath the skin of a very complex issue, understand it properly, see where issues actually lie, and help to make informed decisions. That's the way things should be done. My second point in slight mitigation is that I'm disappointed. I've got used to the idea that we can work together on things. I personally have had an extremely positive experience working on the bus and walking working group with you, Chair, with Councillor Ambrose Smith, David Ambrose Smith, Councillor Every, and it's been very productive and very effective because we've been open, we've been transparent, and it's been possible to work together because we put everything on the table and try to deal honestly with each other. When I see there's this sense that things are not being transparent, that things are being sprung on us, then that makes me very concerned. When you see complexity in financial arrangements, it's a red flag. You know, when you see things coming up by surprise with a lot of work done in the background that you don't know about, that's a red flag. And the final point is, anybody who's listened to my ramblings over the past 2 years will know that I have concerns about CLTs in general because they don't have any external regulation. They're registered, but they're not regulated by any outside body. So they are absolutely dependent on the people inside the CLT to make sure they stay properly focused and, frankly, using this in a colloquial sense, to keep them honest, by which I mean to keep them absolutely doing the job they were set up to do. So scrutiny, scrutiny, scrutiny is life or death for a body like a CLT. Anything that tends to reduce the amount of CLT is, again, a really big red flag. It's a concern. If we didn't put our hands up and say that we were concerned and shout about the need to analyse properly, we wouldn't be doing our job as scrutineers. On the F&A committee, we are obliged and mandated to scrutinise the financial affairs of the council. Now, if the administration genuinely, if we get the impression that the administration is holding back certain pieces of information, then we are right to be very concerned and to air those concerns as publicly as we can. So I won't rant again, but you've got to understand that this is a real problem. This is a real concern. This is something that you're juggling, and you may not be as good at juggling as you think you are. And like my colleagues, I'm not going to vote against this because I see 15 families and I'm not going to keep those people from their homes. But shame on you for the way you've managed this. Honestly, shame on you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harries. I've got no more hands, and therefore I'm going to the seconder of the motion, which is Councillor Bill Hunt.
Thank you very much, Chair. don't you get a feeling, Chair, of a bit of deja vu here?
Have you got, sorry, Councillor Hunter, have you got a problem with you're not on video at the moment? Great, that's better. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I thought don't you get a bit of a sense of deja vu here? We suggest something, we put something forward, we get the usual, oh, in principle, we think this is a very good idea, but, and then we get a load of buts, which always end up with a sort of kick down the road. I agree with Councillor Dupre when she says there should be a difference between points of view, and I believe the opposition have a duty to question the administration. But of course, what we see almost every time is not just a difference of opinion or some positive suggestions, but we see a wrecking ball being sort of brought to our plans. And it must seem to me that there's meetings that go on amongst the other group who say, well, we've got to disagree with it, we're obliged to, so we will. Some of the comments I've heard this evening really, I think, need a little bit of qualification. The Cambridge City Housing Fund was helped by £70 million from a Conservative government who gave them the money, and rather than rolling it over and benefiting people from this year, next year, the year after, whatever, they just spent it. They've just bought their way into an expensive load of houses. The £70 million gone. It won't be turned over again. It's just been got rid of. So it wasn't really a good idea. Councillor Wilson was talking about the what I call, of my age, the RAF hospital site. Those houses have been empty for many years and have been a great concern to all the residents in Ealing District. They were solid houses, they were empty and unused, people needed them, and they've just been sitting there. We are the organisation that have brought them back to life, renovated them and put people in them. We didn't have a choice of the design. We didn't have a choice of how many they were in each street. We were left with them. They were good houses and we've put people in them. And I think I think we should always be concerned and think about affordable housing. It takes many forms really, doesn't it? You've got the low rent, which is one way and probably the most popular way of supplying them. But of course, we're not just satisfied with that. We're doing shared equity, and we're also doing the 100k homes to get another group of people who would like to get on the property ladder and will, and we're making it all possible. I think it is absolutely right that we have to put a test on our schemes. Is this loan safe? Well, an independent consultant says it is, and our 151 officer says it is. And I've had an enormous amount of respect for our 15 officer for many years, and he hasn't let us down so far. I don't see it very unlikely, but he will do so in future. Is there a benefit, as Councillor Schumann said, to the authority? Yes, there is. We couldn't get 1% on the open market for our money, but we're getting 3.75. So we're making a return, which is what we always do. And this has it got wider benefit? Yes, and everybody's talking about benefiting the people who need housing, and of course we do. And I've got a fairly long memory. I go back to the very first meeting we had of this council 2 years ago, when, because of circumstances, we didn't command a majority. And what was the first thing the Liberal Democrats did? They voted to delay the implementation of the MOD houses. The first thing, and unfortunately the only time they had a chance to do it. But when they did have a chance, they brought their wrecking ball in. I think it's really to say that the CLT doesn't work, it is really quite dramatic, and the things like dodgy and half-baked and concerns and doubt if it will end well. And even one of the opposition's members, Councillor Wilson, who I know has worked extraordinarily hard over at Hadnam, and he's had benefits from, or they've had rather, benefits.
Councillor Hunt, could you start to sum up now, please? You're nearly
I
in
will,
5
of
minutes.
course. I think it's absolutely ludicrous that the opposition are trying to oppose this. And I personally am very happy that it passes all the tests that any reasonable person would require. And I don't really like the idea of just objecting because it's us. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hunt. I now go to Councillor Josh Schumann, who's the proposer of this item.
Thank you, Chairman. Much has been made, Chairman, of the 114% that this loan equates to. Just to be clear on the figures, we are loaning £390,000. That is roughly 30% of the total loan amount, which means if the loan was, as has been indicated, 114%, our percent at risk above 100% is 4.2%. 4.2% of our £390,000 is £54,000 that we're putting potentially at risk if everything went wrong tomorrow and the houses had to be sold immediately and they haven't increased in value. So that's as of today that we're being told is far too great a risk for this council to take. And yet these are the same members that a few months ago proposed in their budgetary amendment to spend £60,250 on subsidising rent for e-space tenants. Well over in excess the £40,000 we're putting risk. So presumably this gives us an indication of how the Liberal Democrats consider they wish to spend their money, that they prefer to subsidise businesses which we had no idea whether they needed to be subsidised or not, rather than subsidising residents of this district in providing affordable housing. And let's not make no mistake, Chairman, a vote against this proposal or even an abstention seriously puts at risk the chance of these 15 families to get on the property ladder and buy their first home. Abstaining is not a way out. It is as good as voting against. If you go to the bank and say, it's okay, I'm not going to have the mortgage, I'm abstaining on it, you don't get it. You have a choice tonight. You vote for this or you vote against it. Don't try and squirm out by abstaining and saying that I'm in favour in principle, but I just can't support it, because not supporting it would mean 15 families would lose their mortgages more than likely. Councillor Dupre, in summing up how the finances of this situation and the redevelopment of the MOD site worked, well, what Councillor Dupre described was a perfectly description of how many good businesses operate, in the way that they operate finances, in the way they operate and deliver schemes. You don't expect one organisation. You wouldn't expect a bank to build houses and to provide affordable housing. A bank lends money, a house builder builds houses, an affordable housing provider provides affordable housing. That's all this is offering. With regard to Councillor Dupre's comment about saying that it was unreasonable for me to criticise comments which, and I did write them down, referred to East Cam CLT as dodgy, ramshackle operation. I'm sorry, they're not principled political opposition points. They are points which are being made to undermine the integrity of an organisation, and that is what I believe, and I will stand by my comments, I believe to be dishonest in trying to mislead the public on the way that organisation is both established and operates. Affordable housing can take many forms, Chairman, as we've heard tonight, 100k houses, we've heard about completely affordable in the sense of affordable rents. Being able to buy a house for many people is incredibly difficult. If you ask many people, young people in particular, can you afford to buy 100% of a house? They can't. You ask them, can you afford to buy 60% of a house? They say, yes, but what's the point in owning 60% of a house? I won't have a roof, or I won't have a wall. But no, we've got this very neat mechanism in which we say you own 60% and somebody else owns the other 40%. But the biggest criticism I've heard from friends of mine and many other people besides about these shared ownerships is that eventually these people want to own their own home in entirety. And what is so wrong with that? I think that should be encouraged. It should be supported. It should be something we celebrate. It's giving a hand up rather than a hand out. It's absolutely ensuring that we promote social mobility rather than keeping people at a level where they are stuck by the current systems and archaic systems of affordable housing which we're used to in the past. On the basis of all those reasons, Chairman, and it's been a long evening, I'm not going to get any more passionate, and that's just made me frustrated even thinking about not supporting this. This is about finding 15 homes for 15 families in Ely. And for that reason, I hope that every member can support this and rather than abstaining or voting against. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Schumann. I've got no more speakers, no more people indicating, and obviously that was the summing up anyway. So Tracy, if we can go to the vote, please.
Thank you, Chairman. We are voting on the motion to accept the recommendations in the report. Can you tell me whether you're voting for, against or abstaining? Councillor Christine Ambrose-Smith.
For.
Councillor David Ambrose-Smith.
For.
Councillor Sue Austin.
For.
Councillor Ian Bovingdon.
For.
Councillor David Brown.
For.
Councillor Charlotte Kane.
Abstain.
Councillor Matthew Downey.
Abstain.
Councillor Lorna Dupre.
Abstain.
Councillor Lavinia Edwards.
For.
Councillor Liz Every.
For.
Councillor Simon Harries.
Abstain.
Councillor Julia Huffer.
For.
Councillor Bill Hunt.
For.
Councillor Mark Inskip. Councillor Inskip.
Councillor.
Abstain.
Councillor Alec Jones.
Abstain.
Councillor Dan Schumann.
For.
Councillor Josh Schumann.
For.
Councillor Alan Sharp.
For.
Councillor Amy Starkey.
For.
Councillor John Trapp.
Abstain.
Councillor Paola Trimarco.
For.
Councillor Joe Webber.
For.
Councillor Christine Whelan.
Abstain.
Councillor Gareth Wilson.
Abstain.
So the motion is carried by 15 votes in favour with no votes against and 9 abstentions.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. That brings us to the end of the meeting, as we haven't needed to go into exempt session to consider the paper on loan facilities. It doesn't bring us to the end of the evening, though. So please don't switch your microphones or videos off yet, because we've got the procedural, as I would call them, of the main committees afterwards. What I'd like to do is thank members of the public for viewing the main full council, and obviously you're quite welcome to stay and remain to see the remainder of the evening.
Chair, would you like to bring Councillor
I was just about to say that, Councillor Hunt. Before we move, I hand up. So I've got an echo going on there. Before I hand over to Joe Brooks, if we can bring Councillor Stubbs and Councillor Bailey back into the meeting, please. They're in, are they? Good, thank you. So I'll hand over to Joe Brooks.
Thank you, Chair. I will take this in order as it's published in the agenda. The first committee is the Finance and Assets Committee. Before we start into the agenda, I'd like to take a roll call. So when I call your name, please indicate that you are here. Councillor David Ambrose-Smith.
Present.
Councillor Sue Austin.
Present.
Councillor Alan Bailey.
Present.
Councillor Ian Bovingdon.
Present.
Councillor David Brown.
Present.
Councillor Charlotte Kane.
Present.
Councillor Simon Harries.
Present.
Councillor Bill Hunt.
Present.
Councillor Julia Huffer.
Present.
As Councillor Alison Whelan is not here, please may I have a substitute?
Chairman, I nominate as a substitute Alison.
Thank you, Councillor Dupre. Thank you, members. As this is the first meeting of the Finance and Assets Committee, the first item on the agenda is to elect a chairman for the ensuing municipal year. We have received prior notification of the nomination for chair as Councillor David Brown. This is proposed by Councillor Ian Bovingdon and seconded by Councillor Anna Bailey. Do I have any other nominations, please? If so, please indicate.
Joe, can I just stop? We've got a point of order from Councillor Kane.
Was Councillor Trapp's name called out in the roll call?
No, it wasn't, Councillor Kane.
Should have been.
I apologise. I do apologise, Councillor Trapp. Councillor Trapp.
Is that what
Order again? Yes, I am present.
Thank you. I do apologise, Councillor Trapp. My fault entirely. So yes, as advised, we do have a prior notification of the nomination for chair as Councillor David Brown, which is proposed by Councillor Ian Bovingdon and seconded by Councillor Anna Bailey. If there are any other nominations, could you please indicate by using the raised hand function? Okay, I don't see any. I therefore declare Councillor David Brown as Chairman of the Finance and Assets Committee for the ensuing municipal year. I'll now hand over to Councillor Brown to take you through the rest of the agenda.
Thank you, members. Thank you for your support. I look forward to a further year of the Finance and Assets Committee, and from the chair I will be proposing Councillor Ian Bovingdon as Vice Chairman, and I understand that Councillor Anna Bailey will be seconding. Councillor Kane.
I should like to propose Councillor Alison Whelan as Vice Chair.
And I shall second that.
Thank you. Right, we have two nominations. Who is clerking this meeting? Tracy, you? How are you intending to run the election, please?
Okay, in that we have a contested election, and under normal circumstances for a committee that would be by a show of hands, so we shall do it by a roll call.
Thank you.
So when I call your name, can you say whether you're voting for Councillor David Brown or Councillor...
No, this is for the Vice Chairman. So
sorry, Vice Chairman. Sorry, I beg your pardon. It's late in the night and I'm reading the wrong part on my agenda. I mean Councillor Ian Bovingdon or Councillor Alison Whelan. I beg your pardon. Right.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you. So let me just write that on my sheet here. Thank you. And it's A. Whelan. Thank you. Okay. So, Councillor David Ambrose Smith.
Councillor Bovingdon.
Councillor Sue Austin.
Ian Bovingdon.
Councillor Anna Bailey.
Councillor Bovingdon.
Councillor Ian Bovingdon.
Councillor Bovingdon.
Yes. Councillor David Brown.
Councillor Bovingdon.
Councillor Charlotte Kane.
Councillor Alison Whelan.
And Councillor Dupre, you're substituting, aren't you? So
I am, yes,
yep.
And I'm voting for Councillor Alison Whelan.
Alison Whelan, okay. Councillor Simon Harries.
Alison Whelan, please.
Councillor Bill Hunt.
Ian Bovingdon.
Councillor Julia Huffer.
Councillor Bovingdon.
Councillor John Trapp.
Oh, I'm allowed. Councillor Alison Whelan.
And that's right, okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Councillor Bovingdon is elected by 7 votes to 4 votes.
Tracy, congratulations, Councillor Bovingdon.
Thank you, Chair.
Move on to agenda item number 3, which is the Finance and Assets Hearing Subcommittee, appointing 7 District Council members to the Finance and Assets Hearing Subcommittee, with the proposed appointments as listed on your agenda being from the Conservative Group, Councillors David Brown, Julia Huffer, Bill Hunt; from the Liberal Democrat Group, Charlotte Kane, Simon Harries and John Trapp; and from the Independent Group, Paula Tremarco. I'm proposing from the chair. Could I have a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you. And Tracy, could we make a note to have a progress report on filling the vacancy for the co-opted Town and Parish Council member at a future meeting of Finance and Assets? Brings us. Do I have any other nominations for those appointments? Are all in favour? If not, please show. Right, I'm taking that as all in favour. Item 4 is Personnel Appeals Subcommittee. Appoint 3 members to the Personnel Appeals Subcommittee for the coming year. Proposed appointments are as per your agenda papers. Conservative members, Councillors Brown and Bovingdon. Liberal Democrat member, Councillor Trapp. I propose those from the chair. Could I have a seconder?
I can second, Chair.
Thank you. Any other nominations? If not, we move forward. Agenda item 5 is the East Cambridgeshire Bus Cycle Walk Working Party. We're reappointing the working party for 2021-22 with the proposed appointments being Councillors David Ambrose Smith, Liz Every and Alan Sharp, and from the Liberal Democrats, Councillors Charlotte Kane, Lorna Dupre and Simon Harris. And I am happy to propose those from the chair. I have a seconder.
Happy to second there, David.
Thank you.
Chair.
And again, if anybody, unless anybody is showing against, no. Thank you all. I declare the meeting closed.
Thank you. I'll now move on to the Operational Services Committee. When I call your name, please indicate you are here. Councillor Christine Ambrose Smith.
Present.
Councillor David Ambrose Smith.
Present.
As we have apologies from Councillor Victoria Charlesworth, please may I have a substitute?
That would be me, Councillor Downey.
Thank you, Councillor Downey. Councillor Liz Every. Councillor Julia Huffer.
Present.
Councillor Mark Inskip.
Present.
Councillor Josh Schumann.
Present.
Councillor Paola Tremarco.
Present.
Councillor Joe Webber.
Present.
And Councillor Christine Whelan.
Present.
Sorry? Not for the Operational Services Committee.
Sorry, I wrote to you, Tracy Cooper, that you omitted me from the list. Once again,
Councillor John Trapp, I promise you this, I'm not doing this on purpose.
I realise that typing John Trapp so many times is always an onerous task, that you wanted to avoid it, but you know.
Not at all, Councillor. As this is the first meeting of the Operational Services Committee, the first item on the agenda is to elect a chairman for the ensuing municipal year. We have received prior notification of the nomination for chairman as Councillor David Ambrose Smith. This is proposed by Councillor Julia Huffer and seconded by Councillor Josh Schumann. Do I have any other nominations, please? If so, please indicate by using the raised hand function. Okay, don't see any. I therefore declare Councillor David Ambrose Smith as Chairman of the Operational Services Committee for the ensuing municipal year. I will now hand over to Councillor David Ambrose Smith to take you through the rest of the agenda.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, members, for voting me on. Welcome, John. Hopefully we'll have 2 years or a year.
Oh, you recognise me, do you?
I can just see you. Yes, yes. But thank you very much for joining. I would like to, we have to elect the Vice Chairman for the ensuing municipal year. I would like to propose Julia Huffer. And do I have a seconder?
You do indeed, Chairman. I'm happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other nominations?
I'd like to propose Mark Inskip as Vice Chair. Councillor Mark Inskip.
And I shall second that, if I'm allowed.
You are, John. Thank you very much. We actually have to go to the vote then, Tracy.
Sorry, Chairman, I'll turn my, so that's correct. So let me just write on the front. So we've got Councillor Ambrose Smith.
No.
Sorry, I'm doing it again. Councillor Huffer and Councillor Inskip. I think my time is taking over. So when I call your name, can you please advise whether you're voting for Councillor Huffer or Councillor Inskip? Councillor Christine Ambrose Smith.
Julia Huffer.
Councillor David Ambrose Smith.
Councillor Julia Huffer.
Councillor Liz Every.
Councillor Huffer.
Make sure I get. Sorry, beg your pardon. Councillor Matthew Downey, because you're acting as a substitute.
Yeah, Councillor Mark Inskip.
Thank you. Councillor Julia Huffer.
Councillor Huffer.
Councillor Mark Inskip.
Surprisingly, Councillor Inskip.
Councillor Josh Schumann.
Councillor Huffer.
Councillor John Trapp.
Councillor Inskip.
Councillor Paola Trimarco.
Councillor Huffer.
Councillor Joe Weber.
Councillor Huffer.
Councillor Christine Whelan.
Councillor Inskip.
Thank you. So Councillor Huffer is elected by 7 votes to 4 votes. Sorry, I've got an echo.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Congratulations, Julie.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. I look forward to your continued support. Thank you very much indeed. That's the end of the meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, I look forward to seeing you all in June. Quite an exciting agenda.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I will now move on to the Audit Committee. When I call your name, please indicate that you are here. Councillor Charlotte Kane.
Present.
Councillor Liz Every.
Present.
Councillor Dan Schumann.
Present.
Councillor Alan Sharp.
Present.
As Councillor Alison Whelan has given apologies, may I please have a substitute?
Yeah, I'm substituting on her behalf.
Thank you, Councillor Inskip. As this is the first meeting of the Audit Committee, the first item on the agenda is to elect a chairman for the ensuing municipal year. We have received no prior notification of the nomination for chairman as Councillor Liz Every. This is proposed by Councillor Dan Schumann and seconded by Councillor Alan Sharp. Do I have any other nominations? If so, please use the raised hand function. No, I therefore declare Councillor Liz Every as chairman of the Audit.
There is one.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Inskip. Who would you like to nominate?
I'm nominating Councillor Charlotte Kane.
Lovely. And do you have a seconder?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Kane. I'll hand over to you, Tracy, for the vote.
So we have 2 candidates, Councillor Every and Councillor Kane. When I call your name, can you say whether you're voting for Councillor Every or Councillor Kane? Councillor Kane.
Councillor Kane.
Councillor Every.
Councillor Every.
Let me just remember who the substitute is. Councillor Inskip.
Councillor Kane.
Thank you. Then Councillor Dan Schumann.
Councillor Every.
Councillor Alan Sharp.
Councillor Every.
Councillor. No, that's right. That's right. This is yeah. So Councillor Every is elected by 3 votes to 2 votes.
Thank you very much, Tracy, and thank you everybody for electing me to chairman, particularly as this is a new committee, and I'll do my best to serve you all. Item number 2 is to elect a vice chairman for the next year, and I am proposing Dan Schumann. And do I have a seconder?
I'll second that, Chairman.
Okay. Do I have any other nominations?
Yes, I'm proposing Councillor Kane as vice chairman.
Do you have a seconder?
Yeah, I second that.
Okay, so Tracy, can you take this to the vote, please?
Yep. So, okay, and Councillor Kane, that's great. Okay, let me just try to get this right this time. So let's tick that one. Lovely. When I call your name, can you say whether you're voting for Councillor Daniel Schumann or Councillor Kane? Councillor Charlotte Kane.
Councillor Kane.
Councillor Liz Every.
Councillor Schumann.
Councillor Daniel Schumann.
Councillor Schumann.
Councillor Mark Inskip.
Councillor Kane.
Councillor Alan Sharp.
Councillor Dan Schumann.
Councillor, that's right, no, that's it. Right, so that's, okay. So Councillor Schumann is elected by 3 votes to 2 votes.
Thank you very much, Tracy, and look forward to the very first meeting of the Audit Committee when it's arranged. Thank you very much indeed. That ends the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Every. I'll now move on to the Licensing Committee. When I call your name, please indicate that you are here. Councillor Christine Ambrose-Smith.
Present.
Councillor David Ambrose-Smith.
Present.
Councillor Sue Austin.
Present.
Councillor Lavinia Edwards.
Present.
Councillor Simon.
Yes, present.
Thank you. Councillor Julia Huffer.
Present.
Councillor Mark Inskip.
Present.
Councillor Alec Jones.
Present.
Councillor Alan Sharp.
Present.
Councillor Joe Webber.
Present.
And Councillor Gareth Wilson.
Present.
Thank you, members. As this is the first meeting of the Licensing Committee, the first item on the agenda is to elect a chairman for the ensuing municipal year. We have received prior notification of the nomination for chairman as Julia Huffer, proposed by Councillor Joe Webber and seconded by Councillor Alan Sharp. Do I have any other nominations? If so, please indicate by using the raised hand function. No, I can't see any. I therefore declare Councillor Julia Huffer as chairman of the Licensing Committee for the ensuing municipal year. I'll now hand over to Councillor Huffer to take you through the rest of the agenda.
Thank you, Joe. Right, the item number 2 is to elect a vice chairman for the ensuing municipal year, and I would like to propose Councillor Webber. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that, Chairman.
Thank you. I can see by your raised hand, Councillor Wilson, would you like to propose a vice chair also?
Yes, I'd like to propose Councillor Alec Jones.
Do you have a seconder? Oh, Councillor Harries waving his hand. Okay. Tracy, can we go to the vote then, please?
Right, when I call your name, can you say whether you're voting for Councillor Webber or Councillor Jones? Councillor Sue Austin.
Councillor Webber.
Councillor Christine Ambrose-Smith.
Councillor Webber.
Councillor David Ambrose-Smith.
Councillor Webber.
Councillor Lavinia Edwards.
Councillor Webber.
Councillor Simon Harries.
Councillor Jones.
Councillor Julia Huffer.
Councillor Webber.
Councillor Mark Inskip.
Councillor Jones.
Councillor Jones.
Councillor Jones.
Councillor Alan Sharp.
Councillor Webber.
Councillor Webber.
Yes.
Yeah, Councillor Webber.
And Councillor Gareth Wilson.
Councillor Jones.
So that Councillor Webber by 7 votes to 4 votes.
Thank you, Tracy. We now move on to item number 3, which is appointing members to the licensing statutory subcommittee for 21-22. Conservative group, it's Lavinia Edwards and Alan Sharp, and from the Liberal Democrats, Alan Jones. If everybody's happy with that. Item number 4 is the licensing non-statutory subcommittee. We need 5 members for that. We have from the Conservative group, Lavinia Edwards and Alan Sharp. And at the moment we have John Trapp and Gareth Wilson, and we have a vacancy in this subcommittee. Do we have any more proposals from the Liberal Democrats for another member? You, Councillor Harries, putting your hand up. Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Can we make a note then, Tracy, that Councillor Harries will be the 3rd member on the non-statutory subcommittee. That being the all the business concluded, I bring this meeting to a close. Thank you very much, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you, Councillor Huffer. Thank you. I'll now move on to the Planning Committee. When I call your name, please indicate that you are here. Councillor Christine Ambrose-Smith.
Present.
Councillor Sue Austin.
Present.
Councillor David Brown.
Present.
Councillor Matt Downey.
Present.
Councillor Lavinia Edwards.
Present.
Councillor Liz Every. Councillor Bill Hunt.
Present.
Councillor Alec Jones.
Present.
Councillor Lisa Stubbs.
Present.
Councillor John Trapp.
Present.
Councillor Gareth Wilson.
Present.
Thank you, members. As this is the first meeting of the Planning Committee, the first item on the agenda is to elect a chairman for the ensuing municipal year. We have received prior notification of the nomination for chairman as Councillor Bill Hunt. This is proposed by Councillor Lisa Stubbs and seconded by Councillor David Brown. Do I have any other nominations? If so, please indicate by using the blue raised hand function. Right, I can't see any. I therefore declare Councillor Bill Hunt as chairman of the Planning Committee for the ensuing municipal year. I will now hand over to Councillor Hunt to go through the rest of the agenda.
Well, thank you for that, members. I will try and run a happy ship for the next year. And I have a proposal for vice chairman, and that is Councillor Lisa Stubbs. Do I have a seconder?
Happy to second, Chairman.
Councillor Brown to second. Have we got Councillor Trapp? Is that are you going to be suggesting a vice chair?
I'm going to propose Councillor Downey as vice chair.
And have you got a seconder?
Yes,
Councillor Jones. And so we have two contestants. So Tracy, we have Councillor Downey and Councillor Stubbs competing for the vice chair.
Thank you, Chairman. So when I call your name, can you say whether you're voting for Councillor Stubbs or Councillor Downey? Councillor Sue Austin.
Councillor Stubbs.
Councillor Christine Ambrose-Smith.
Councillor Stubbs.
Councillor David Brown.
Councillor Stubbs.
Councillor Matthew Downey.
Councillor Matthew Downey.
Councillor Lavinia Edwards.
Councillor Stubbs.
Councillor Liz Every.
Councillor Stubbs.
Councillor Bill Hunt.
Councillor Stubbs.
Councillor Alec Jones.
Councillor Downey.
Councillor Lisa Stubbs.
Councillor Stubbs.
Councillor John Trapp.
Councillor Matt Downey.
Councillor Gareth Wilson.
Councillor Downey.
So Councillor Stubbs is elected by 7 votes to 4.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Congratulations, Councillor Stubbs. And there being no other business, I will draw this meeting to a close. Good night.
Thank you, Chair. That concludes all of the mini meetings.
Everyone, night.
Yep. Yeah, good night, everybody. Thanks for
Night.
your attendance.
Bye-bye.